Reborn in India as a Magnate. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51. Flyers are not as good as verbal information. Part 2. Seeing that Master Belsina's thoughts were simply unpredictable, he had forgotten what he had just said. That is, more than 98% of the people in the town are illiterate. What's the point of your flyers being so detailed? It would be strange if those people who repair houses can't understand your products and can sell them. That's the problem. Of course, this can't be blamed on Master Belsina. After all, he is only 14 years old and will be 15 in more than a month. What does he know at such a young age? So Will, who has been living and doing business in the town with his parents since he was a child, knows best what those illiterate people in the town are thinking. Knowing their living habits, it is easier for them to believe what they hear than what they see with their own eyes. This is the benefit of being afraid of people's words. 3 people make a tiger, and 100 lies become true after hearing them in the end. So Will quickly corrected Belsina's misunderstanding and said in a voice raised twice, "Master Singh, this is the problem. You know that 98% of the people in this town are illiterate. How can those rough people understand these exquisite promotional materials you printed? Besides, how can these promotional materials passed from hand to hand be compared with the speed of passing messages? I think you know which is faster or slower, otherwise you wouldn't have thought of advertising on TV or radio stations." At this time, Belsing, who had lived to live, suddenly seemed to have a spiritual enlightenment and finally understood what Will was saying. What did he mean? He took 2 puffs of cigarette without realizing it and suddenly felt refreshed. He turned his head and looked at Vylal, who was sitting at the outermost edge, and said with a smile, "What do you mean? I understand. That is to say, our idea of advertising is correct, but the means of publicity are biased. It is not practical and can't solve the problem. These brochures are printed at a high price. In the eyes of those illiterate people, they are just talking to each other. Seeing that you are so confident, well, you must have different ideas. Don't hide it and say it quickly. If you really solve the problem, you can help the master solve a huge trouble. The reward you get will not be less. Tell us how to solve this big trouble for us all to be happy." Will saw that almost everyone in the room focused their eyes on him, and he felt a lot of pressure. At the same time, he also said to Master Belsina, this is also his chance. If he really gets extra rewards, he can also get a lot of bonuses. In addition, it will be very cheap for internal employees to buy cement or asbestos tiles. These building materials will definitely be very cheap, and then he can build a large house for his family. There is no need to worry about the marriage of several younger brothers, so Will felt pressure and motivation. He adjusted his breathing and observed himself. These people are all big carrots and cabbages. He smiled confidently and said, "Sir, you are right. I have some ideas. And I don't have to spend a lot of money on printing. The only way to spread the ideas is by word of mouth. For these rough people, even the promotional materials they get are not as real as what they hear. We can save the money on printing promotional materials and hire some idle people in the town to go from street to street in the nearby mountain villages. Promote the benefits of cement and asbestos tiles produced by our Singh industry, so that these rough people who can't read a few words know how much our cement and asbestos tiles cost. It is much more useful than those brochures. It is true. A while ago, I heard that in Mumbai, a little girl with 1 red and 1 black eye was regarded as a saint by the local villagers. They regarded her as a living god, and they worshipped her, donated money, and even built a temple. Even though the government came forward to explain why the little girl was born with 1 red and 1 black eye, it was because of conjunctivitis. However, these ignorant local villagers still believed that this girl was born with the ability to communicate with ghosts and gods, and was a goddess and a patron saint who protected them. Look at how terrible ignorance and stupidity are. Mumbai is 1,000 kilometers away from here, but in less than a week, the news reached the remote town of Sinjar. It is very surprising that the word of mouth spread so quickly. It is a good method. Most of the people present are college students. You live in a big city and you are well informed. When Will expressed his ideas, no one felt that this will was indeed not a simple method. The cost was low and the publicity effect was so good. In time, he would definitely grow into another big boss of the Belsing family. You have to get along well with this Will. You can't say when he can help you and save your life. So everyone smiled and encouraged Will. At this time, Belsing felt very proud. After all, he was a young man from his territory. He was so outstanding that he would not give himself face. And Will's idea was to find those idle people and give each of them 100 rupees. They couldn't let them run around and talk all day. How low the cost of publicity should be, much cheaper than printing brochures and advertising on TV and radio stations, and the effect should be good. In addition, this idea was proposed by Will, and in order to train subordinates who can take charge of matter, this job should be handed over to Will to complete. External recruitment is definitely not as reliable as the talents trained by ourselves, so we should train a few candidates for right-hand men. After seeing that everyone unanimously agreed with Will's alternative publicity method, Belsing shamelessly took out another cigarette from Marlboro's cigarette box, took a puff of it, and said to Will with a smile of encouragement, "Not bad, not bad. You are indeed an elite from the Laga Valley. You have come up with such a good idea, so I will leave it to you to complete it. Go to Jamal, the butler, to collect the required funds. In addition, in order to improve your enthusiasm, I will give you a commission for every bag of cement and asbestos tile sold. The more you sell, the more money you will make. Work hard, young man. I'm very optimistic about you. Ha ha ha." Then he turned his head and looked at the smiling senior executives around him and sat there and said sourly, "Look at Weir. He's only 20 years old. He just graduated from high school and he can work for me. That's the only problem. You so-called students from famous universities, you're well informed in big cities. How come you become mudloaches when you come to Sinja town? It's really embarrassing. Alright, let's adjourn. Each of you take care of your own job. If there is any problem, I'll ask for you. Hurry up and follow me." Seeing that Master Singh was angry, these people were like mice seeing a cat. They smiled awkwardly and stood up and bowed deeply to the new master and then said, "Master, I'm leaving," and then walked out one after another. At this time, Singh finished smoking a cigarette, butt and handed it to the little Jamal next to him and said, "Take the cigarette, but to the cigarette seller and ask, I feel it's very good. When I ask what brand of cigarette it is, buy me a pack and I can smoke one when I'm upset. It can solve the problem." I didn't expect these photos to really solve the problem and make me feel much better. Then the old butler Jamal and Weir sat together and muttered. Sometimes he would even give a sly smile, like a thief, look around to see if anyone was paying attention to him, and then lower his head to discuss things. Chapter 52. The publicity effect is quite good. The specific implementation plan is very simple. There are many idle people who like to spread the news and walk around the streets of Sinja. They took out 100,000 rupees as publicity funds and hired more than 100 idle people in the society. Each of them was paid 100 rupees a day to go to the countryside for publicity. How good is the quality of the cement produced by Singh Industrial Cement Factory? How cheap is it? And how strong is the cement and asbestos tiles produced by the asbestos tile factory? It can withstand the sun and rain and does not need to be replaced for more than 10 years. It is very light and clean. It is not as troublesome as the thatched mud houses that need to replace the roof every 2 or 3 years. Anyway, they hire those who are eloquent and can speak vernacular. Walk around the streets and find people to talk. In order to improve the enthusiasm of these word-of-mouth propagandists, let them pull business into their own building materials stores and give them a commission of 100 rupees for each completed business. Although 100 rupees is not much, it is also a considerable income for Sinja town, where the cost of living is very low. Enough money for a family of 5 to live on. With benefits, there is motivation. It is not easy for these idle people to find work. In the past, they just walked around the streets and chatted with people. Selling these cement and asbestos tiles can earn a lot of money. Who wouldn't do it? Only a fool wouldn't do it. So at 6 o'clock the next morning, the 100 idle people found yesterday afternoon who were dressed in rags, some without shoes, and had dark skin, all gathered in the warehouse area of the building materials store. Then Will personally gave work instructions to these verbal propagandists, telling them who to start with, how to promote the benefits of these cement and asbestos tiles, etc. Anyway, they are all tricks to fool people, and the teaching effect is quite good. Of course, in order to achieve the best publicity effect, these people are divided into different areas. You are responsible for the east side of the city, and I'm responsible for the west side of the city. You are responsible for the Zinma village in the suburbs, and I'm responsible for the Langma village next to it. Dispersing all these people will achieve the best effect. Then there was a bang, and each of them acted separately. They would meet again at Singh's building materials store at 6 o'clock in the evening to fight for their own salary. It is true that these idle people in society are all good at talking and fooling people, and their vision is also very sharp. They can tell which family is rich, which family is poor, which family needs to build a house, which family is renovating a house, etc. And they are good at talking. They also took out the promotional materials of Singer building materials store and let these country bumpkins see how beautiful and practical the cement and asbestos tiles in the materials are, and how cheap they are. Every time these idle people are successfully fooled, they will take out a business card specially customized for them by Singer building materials store from their pockets. On it are their names and identity codes, and they are handed to the consumers who are successfully fooled by them and are ready to buy cement and asbestos tiles. They are repeatedly told to give this business card to the sales staff of the building materials store when they buy cement and asbestos tiles again and get certain discounts. These discounts are impossible. Giving these business cards is just to confirm that this business is done by this person. That business is done by that person. Otherwise, how can you determine your commission? That was a mess. The whole morning passed quietly, and as before, no customer came. But what was different from before was that no one, from Belsinger who was sitting in the office on the second floor drinking tea, to Will who was cleaning the windows on the first floor of the store, or sitting behind the cashier, was worried or afraid of the anxiety they had before. Everyone was waiting, and it was only a matter of time before the business came. Of course, in order to boost morale and prepare for the busy work ahead, the stingy Belsinger actually ordered a delicious lunch at a restaurant not far from the building materials store. A portion of curry chicken leg, a portion of fried pork chop, and each person was given a cup of very luxurious Coca-Cola. The lunch was very happy and rich. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the glass door of the building materials store was pushed in from the outside and placed on the bell on the glass door. Everyone in the two building materials stores heard the clanging of the metal bell, which was like the sound of war drums on the battlefield, and everyone became excited. I saw a middle-aged man dressed in a traditional Indian gown and vest walk in. He saw several shop assistants in neat clothes looking at him. This middle-aged man felt very embarrassed and asked cautiously, "Excuse me, is this Singh building materials store? Is it a place that sells cement and asbestos tiles? I don't know if I'm going the right way. Can you tell me?" This well-dressed man must be illiterate. There is a big billboard hanging between the first and second floors outside, which a blind person can see. It says Singh building materials store, and there is a leopard logo roaring to the sky on the back. But when this man came in, he asked if it was Singh building materials store. Is it a place that sells cement and asbestos tiles? It's obvious that he is illiterate. This is also a common phenomenon in most Indians. What's so strange about you? Seeing that there is finally a business and a buyer, everyone feels very excited. Under the signal of the store manager Will, a very clever salesman came up with a smile, shook hands with the nervous consumer and said respectfully, "You are not in the wrong place, sir. This is Singer Building Materials Store. We are a subsidiary of Singer Industrial, specializing in selling Leopard brand cement produced by Singer Industrial Company. We are the designated store for Leopard brand cement asbestos tiles. I can help you with anything you want to buy. My name is Leela, the salesman." The cowardly middle-aged man did not expect that a young salesman would take the initiative to help him. This feeling of being respected is really wonderful. It makes these ordinary people living at the bottom of society feel that they are still living like human beings, so they are no longer cowardly, and they stand up straight and say with a smile, Hello Leela, isn't this the dry season? The rainy season will come in a few months, and your house should be repaired. To be honest, it's a blessing that the stone adobe house didn't collapse after the monsoon. Now it's almost as bad as a pigsty. I just happened to have some money at home and wanted to buy some cement and asbestos tiles to repair the house. I wonder how much you sell cement and asbestos tiles. A standard business deal made the salesperson Leela's eyes sparkle, and he took the customer's hand with a smile and went to the product exhibition area to introduce the cement grade and asbestos tile grade to the customer. There are also their respective prices, etc. Xiao Ruhuang introduced them in great detail. Even an illiterate person can understand what is the difference between cement and cement. What is the difference between asbestos tiles and asbestos tiles? Then weigh the thickness of his wallet. After a few minutes, he finally decided to buy 5 bags of cement and 20 asbestos tiles. The price of cement is 20% off. Each price is 400 rupees, and 5 bags of cement is 2000 rupees. In addition, the unit price of 20 asbestos tiles is 150 rupees, which means that the total sales of 3000 rupees reaches 5000 Indian rupees, which is equivalent to more than 400 yuan. Chapter 53, Leisure Life. One business deal was worth 5000 rupees. Although it was not much, it was a good start, so every salesperson felt very happy. After paying the money and recording who brought this business back, the salesperson helped the gentleman prepare cement and asbestos tiles and put them on their ox cart. Then he said goodbye with a smile and tried to persuade this consumer to repair his house and buy materials from Singh Building Materials Store to get a repeat customer. As a repeat customer, this gentleman was like a scout in a large army. A few minutes later, business continued to come in. Of course, the number of people who bought cement and asbestos tiles was small, but ants are meat when they are in large numbers. The consumption level in Sinja town is like this. There is no way to accumulate small things. Seeing that there are customers coming in one after another, Belsing, who is sitting in front of the French window on the second floor and observing the business situation of the entire building materials store, is so happy. He was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth while smoking the imported American Camel cigarettes in his hand. It turned out that these artificial propaganda methods were really powerful. Business came to the door one after another. The opening of the business and the monopoly of the enterprise were out of control. As long as you want to repair the house with cement or asbestos tiles, you must come. Singha Building Materials Store is the only one that sells Scorpion Baba. There is no other outlet that sells cement. If the business is good, it will be a lot of money. After sitting for more than 2 hours, he saw more than a dozen customers pulling cement and asbestos tiles away with a smile. At this time, Belsingha put aside his worries and walked down from the second floor with his little follower Jamal. He said hello to the store manager Will and walked slowly to his home with his hands behind his back like a crab. He was stunned as soon as he entered the house. Why is there no one in the living room that was originally lively now? Belsingha didn't understand the situation and shouted, "Where are the people? Where have they gone? Lina, your husband, I'm back. What's going on? Why is there no one here? Did they all go shopping?" As he spoke, he sat on the sofa and unconsciously took out a Camel cigarette and lit it. He took a puff of it. Now Belsingha has fallen in love with this spicy taste. It can refresh oneself, eliminate fatigue and relieve boredom. Cigarettes are really a good partner for men. In the future, I will grab cigarettes and fine wine with both hands, and both hands must be strong. At this time, the little follower Jamal came out of the kitchen with a large fruit plate in his hand, which was full of fresh fruits. There was even a bunch of fresh bananas. Although they were only a dozen centimeters long, the taste of these bananas was very strong, much better than those stupid bananas that were more than 20 centimeters long. Belsingha took the good bananas from Jamal and asked in confusion while eating, "Go, call housekeeper Jamal. No one is home. Did they all go out shopping?" Little Jamal, still holding half a banana in his mouth, nodded and stood up. He went to the phone and called his grandfather. The phone rang for a long time before it was connected. Then little Jamal asked, "Grandpa, Master Singh and I are back. Why is there no one at home? Did they all go out shopping? Where are you? Where is Madam Lina? The voice on the other end of the phone was very noisy, as if it was in the vegetable market. The old man shouted into the phone in a roaring voice. Tell Master Singh that Madam Lina and I are at the vegetable market. We found something good today. A freshly slaughtered camel is on sale in the market, and it is evenly fat and lean. Madam Lina plans to buy some to make barbecue. But there are too many people, and it is too crowded. Don't worry, we will be back soon. I will hang up the phone. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a beeping sound from the phone. The old man was still as impetuous as before, with the old housekeeper by his side. Belsina was not worried about the safety of his little wife Lina, but sat on the sofa with a smile and enjoyed the afternoon sunshine. Eating bananas and drinking black tea, his eyelids began to fight involuntarily, and then he fell asleep on the sofa. When he woke up, Belsina was covered with a very beautiful blanket. He turned his head and looked outside the balcony. It was already dark. He smelled a very strong smell of barbecue, and then he stretched and sat up from the sofa. Looking at the maids in the house busying around, he knew that dinner was being prepared. Seeing that Master Belsina had woken up, a maid naturally brought up a tray with a pot of freshly brewed black tea. Another maid notified Mrs. Lina in the room that the master had woken up, and then Lina came out of the room with a smile. Sitting next to Belsina, he gently poured a cup of steaming hot black tea for Belsina and said with a smile, Brother Bell, I'm so lucky today. I went to the market to buy things and saw a camel that was slaughtered on the spot. It was an 18-month-old camel, and the meat was just delicious. I thought you liked to eat barbecued camels, so I bought some more and put them in the refrigerator for you to eat slowly. Such tender camel meat is very rare. How happy are you? Looking at the little girl, she was so smart and surprised. Her mind was full of what she liked to eat and wear. She was so self-centered that she could have such a wife. What else could she ask for? The little girl looked like she was offering a treasure to him. Belsina couldn't help but feel funny. He hugged the little girl, kissed her on the forehead, and said with a smile, Okay, Brother Bell is very happy, but no matter how good the things are, it's not your turn to do it yourself. Wouldn't it be better to let the old housekeeper go? It's so hot, and I'm so distressed to see you exposed to the sun. Don't do this again in the future, naughty. He scratched the little girl's nose with his fingers, which made the little girl dissatisfied. She slapped Belsina's hand and said dissatisfiedly, Hate, my nose is not strong enough to begin with, and now you shave it so smooth that it's almost as smooth as a pig's. I'm going to become an ugly monster. Let's see what you can do. Drink tea, it will be cold soon. The meal will be ready in 2 hours. At this point, Belsina looked up at the clock hanging on the wall. It was already 8 o'clock, and there were still 2 hours to eat, which would be 10 o'clock. This dinner was really late, but fortunately the whole family would go to bed in the early morning, so they could still digest it. I just picked up the teacup and took a sip. Hearing the doorbell ring, then little Jamal opened the door himself and saw the dean of the building materials store, Will, holding an account book in his hand and smilingly walked in. Seeing the young couple sitting on the sofa, Will first saluted Lina and then bowed to Belsina. At Belsina's invitation, he sat on the sofa next to him. Seeing Will's smiling face, he knew that the business this afternoon was good. Respect should be given to capable subordinates, so Belsina personally poured Will a cup of fragrant black tea and then said with a smile, Tell me, you look so happy. The business this afternoon must be very hot. Let's see how much consumption there is. Chapter 54, Buy Cement and Pay in Installments. Veer came to Belsing's residence to announce the good news. He took out his account book with a smile. He turned to today's turnover and handed it to Belsing, and then explained on the side. Master, the sales volume this afternoon reached 200,000 rupees, and there were nearly 20 orders. After deducting the cost, the net profit in the afternoon was 150,000 rupees, which is very good. The detailed records are all in the account book. You can check it carefully. The income and expenditure records in the account book are very detailed. Even all the costs are thrown out. The balance of 150,000 rupees is equivalent to 10,000 yuan in RMB. The income is not bad. It can break even with the wages of all the workers in the 2 cement plants and the asbestos tile factory. The raw material costs, electricity and water costs, and there is also a net income of 50,000 rupees. It can earn so much in just one afternoon. Not bad, not bad, quite good. It is done cleanly and in detail. Veer, the store manager, is a talent worth cultivating. He carefully checked the account book, put it on the coffee table, and pushed it to Veer, and said with a smile, "It's quite good to have such a good result in one afternoon. You came just in time. Madam saw a freshly slaughtered camel in the vegetable market this afternoon. We are going to have roasted camel tonight, which is a rare delicacy. Staying for dinner is a reward for you." Ha ha ha. It was still a long time before dinner, and Will came here not only to report the accounts. There was also a very important matter that he wanted to ask Master Belsinger for a solution, so he nodded with a smile and agreed, then sighed and said to Master Singer, "Thank you for your hospitality, Master, but I came here tonight and there is another very important thing to report to you. That is, 10 orders of business escaped this afternoon. The specific reason is that these people are local rich people in the countryside. They have some money at home and want to renovate their own houses, but they can't take out so much money to buy building materials at once, so they want to ask us in a building materials store if they can use the installment payment method. Let them buy enough water first and then pay us the cost of cement in installments. Strange things happen every year, and there are especially many this year. Buying cement still requires installment payment. I'm not a bank owner. It is a bit weird to give these local rich people cement as loans." But when Belsing recalled what he had seen and heard in Sinjar in the past 2 months, he knew that Will was not lying. This was the truth. It seems that a bag of cement costs 500 rupees, which is worth more than 40 yuan. The price is not high, but in the backward economy and closed transportation, the town of Sinjar, where the cost of living is very low, is already a top consumer price. These top sales prices are not affordable for ordinary people. Even those local rich people in the countryside will take the way of installment payment to repay the purchase of cement. You can imagine those Shudras who don't have much assets, and even those Dalits who can wear shoes. There is even less money to buy a few bags of cement at one time, which is a large expenditure. So these people will ask Singh Building Materials Store if they can buy cement and asbestos tiles in installments. It is also understandable. The general environment of society is like this. If you don't accept installment payment, you will lose a lot of business. But the Singh family is not a bank, and there is not so much liquidity to bear on these installment payers. Who knows whether these installment payers can pay back the money for cement? If these cement buyers cannot pay back the money for cement in 4.5 years, the loss will not be made up. Singh Industries will be dragged down by these people. By then, they will be bankrupt, have no money, and their social status will be reduced. Will these people still pay back their debts? So the problem here is very complicated. Belsing smoked 2 cigarettes in a row, and then frowned and asked the second Will, "There are more than a dozen people who want to pay in installments and get cement and asbestos tiles in just one afternoon, right?" Will quickly put down the teacup in his hand and nodded, saying, "Yes, sir. The exact number should be 16 and the amount of cement and asbestos tiles purchased by these people is very large. They are all above 20 generations of cement and 50 pieces of cement and asbestos tiles. It is a big deal, but the other party needs to take the installment management method. I can't make the decision, so I came to ask you how to solve it first. Buying more than 20 bags of cement at a time is considered a big deal for this town. There are many houses in their homes, and there are also many places to renovate and rebuild. In fact, these people are local rich people in the countryside. It is still very difficult to take out more than 10,000 rupees to buy cement at one time. Giving up this installment payment method, which accounts for 1/3 of the consumers, will lose a lot of business. It's like chicken ribs, smelling delicious but eating meatless, just like a fish bone in the throat. Can't swallow it, can't cough it out, it's really uncomfortable. How can Indians have such a weird idea? Who gave these people the idea? It is really abominable to start this installment payment method. At this time, Belsina should make a choice and think carefully, and then he said to Will seriously, "Since some potential customers cannot pay the cost of these building materials in one go, they can pay in installments. But we must examine the other party's assets, and then let them sign a contract to use equivalent items as collateral. If they can't pay back the money, we can also take back the things or land, and we won't lose a lot of money. This is a very good way. Will agrees very much. Hearing that Master Belsina thought of a solution so quickly, he admires it very much. And the store manager Will is not a good guy either. He said with a sinister smile beside him, "Master, we can't let these untouchables get away with it. Installment payment is fine, but they have to take out equivalent items as collateral. Then they have to pay the corresponding interest. I think 10% is enough. What do you think? It's cruel, vicious, and greedy. It's worthy of being an elite from his own territory, Lager Valley. It's not a master who will suffer losses. Why didn't I think of it? You can pay in installments, but you have to pay a certain amount of interest. Otherwise, as the currency depreciates, you, as a creditor, will unconsciously lose part of your profits slowly. If this continues, it will accumulate into a lot. I like this method." So when he heard the 10% interest proposed by Will, Belsina's mood immediately improved, and he praised with a smile. "Yes, Will is now a qualified store manager. In order to train you, I will add more responsibilities to you in the future. I hope you can maintain your current state." I agreed to let these untouchables buy cement and asbestos tiles in installments, but there are 3 requirements. First, they must take out the corresponding land, houses or other properties as collateral, and then sign the contract. Second, the installment period cannot exceed 3 years. No matter how much cement and asbestos tiles the other party purchases, the installment repayment period must not exceed 10 installments, and each installment must repay 10% of the purchase price. Third, it is necessary to add 10% interest. When the purchase price of the cement is repaid, these collaterals will be handed over to him. If you agree, I can pay in installments. If you don't agree, you can do whatever you want. I'm not a saint, and I won't work for them for free. Chapter 55. Business is on the right track. Although these 3 requirements are quite demanding, those who buy cement and asbestos tiles actually came up with a weird installment payment method. Isn't it demanding? The 2 sides are both worthless, so no one can say who is better than the other. Those of you who can come up with such a weird idea, if you can accept it, we will continue to cooperate, and if you can't accept it, you are not a big deal. So after formulating the rules of installment payment, today's work is finally over. Tonight's dinner is sprinkled with sesame, cumin, and even turmeric and chili powder. The camel meat is roasted, which is called Shannon. It is very delicate and chewy when bitten in the mouth, and it doesn't get stuck in the teeth, and doesn't have the smell of goat. It is a rare delicacy. The little girl is quite awesome, and actually bought more than 30 kilograms of fresh camel meat. After cleaning and cutting, it is all put in the refrigerator, which is enough for a while. The price is a bit expensive, but the product is better than anything else. The roasted camel meat is sizzling with oil, and it is paired with wheat cakes, sour and spicy curry, potatoes, and tomatoes. It is a perfect match. Today is also a good start. After paying a huge amount of money of more than 100 million rupees, it finally paid off. The day of happiness is coming, so today Master Belsing is very generous, and took out 2 bottles of Los Aleogio from China, so that these country bumpkins can taste the benefits of Chinese wine. After eating and drinking, watching TV for a while, taking a shower, I went back to the room, and lay on the warm and comfortable big bed, and fell asleep beautifully. I also had a dream that I not only built a cement plant and an asbestos tile plant, but also many industrial companies. There was even a small gold vein under the 500 square kilometers of mineral resources that I contracted. It was dug out, and the annual output of gold reached 50 tons, allowing the whole family to live a wealthy life. Many had snot bubbles coming out, and she kept giggling while sleeping on the bed. As a result, her chin had fatigue damage when she woke up the next morning. I need to take some anti-inflammatory drugs and rest for a few days before I can eat those hard meats and bones. I have no choice but to eat some vegetarian food these days. Belsina's jaw is sore, so he didn't go to the building materials store to take charge in person these days. It was through his follower Jamal that he got the news that the sales of the building materials market were very hot. As time went by, every day when the door opened, When the door closed at night, there was an endless stream of customers. It was almost the same as Belsina guessed. Consumers who bought cement and asbestos tiles in installments accounted for 35% of the total, which was equivalent to 1/3. And those who bought these building materials in installments were basically big customers, and the purchase volume was no less than 1 ton. Some even bought 5 tons of high-grade cement and hundreds of asbestos tiles. It was really a big deal, a big deal. Of course, these big installment buyers also paid a heavy price. Not only did they take their own land certificates to the building materials store for mortgage, but they also had to bear 10% interest. Every 3 months, they have to repay the purchase price and interest until they have repaid the fees and interest on the land and property they mortgaged. They even mortgaged their goats, and some even mortgaged their wives. They bought cement and stone tiles and pulled them back to their villages. Then they organized people to build houses. Of course, it is impossible to build houses with only cement and asbestos tiles. Other building materials are also needed, such as steel bars, sand, and wooden doors and windows. These building materials are basically all over the mountains. Sand in the river can be used as much as you want, so sand is worthless. Except for customers who buy building materials in bulk and pay all the purchase money on the spot. The amount of building materials purchased is relatively small. It is rare to use more than 1 ton of cement, but no matter how small a mosquito is, it is meat. If you fry it into a plate, you can also have a glass of wine. You can't stand the large number of people. In addition, there are a building materials store and the 3-wheeled drivers around, or the small trucks that were hired for only a few days came in handy. Anyone who bought cement from Singer Building Materials store recommended these 3-wheeled motorcycles that had a cooperative relationship with it. Or the truck driver would take these building materials to the buyer's village, and Sing Building Materials store would take 20% of the extra fare. Not only did it solve the transportation problem of these customers, but there were also kickbacks. This business was done quite well. Anyway, the building materials store was booming. The building materials produced by the cement factory and the asbestos tile factory were selling well. The production and sales were basically a little rich, and some cement and asbestos tiles could be stored. In addition, after more than 10 days of hard work, the workers of the 2 factories were finally able to produce at full capacity, adding bricks and tiles to the wealth of the Singh family. The 2 small factories and 1 building materials store were all on the right track. They operated the same, whether they had me or not. They only had to check the accounts every month. Master Singh, who was finally free, stroked his sore chin and directed people to return to the Raga Valley to decorate his small castle. All the imported decoration materials that were previously brought back from China were transported to the castle in the Singh Valley by hand and carts. They put it in the warehouse for storage, waiting for the renovation workers who were looted from the town and the Chinese workers who built the small hydroelectric generators to come back to Laga Valley to start the renovation. So after seeing that the business in the town was on the right track, they handed over all the matters to the professional managers and the newly discovered talent of Weir. Then they took the old butler Jamal's own human mule Brook and a group of male and female servants to sit on the 3-wheeled motorcycle and traveled 1/3 of the way. Then they changed to a bamboo sedan chair carried by their own human mule Brook and swayed and comfortably climbed over the small peaks one by one. They waded barefoot across 2 waist-deep rivers in the dry season, and then returned to the Laga Valley after 2 months of absence. To be honest, the town of Sinjar is still a big city in the hearts of the millions of people around it, but there is a common problem, that is, garbage everywhere. There are more flies and mosquitoes than people. The living conditions are very bad. If it weren't for the convenience of electricity and water, who would live in the town? The village of Laga, surrounded by green mountains and clear waters, is his base camp. One is stinking, and the other is a natural oxygen bar. There is no other problem except inconvenient transportation, so unless forced, Belsina will not live in the town. That is equivalent to chronic suicide. Living for a year, and reducing 2 years of life. Who would do such a losing business? Walk into the small mountain village from the entrance of the valley wall. Feel the fresh air blowing on your face, and the crops planted on the flat land have grown to adult stage. In addition, the local dogs in the village barked when they smelled the smell of strangers, and the women, Children and old people who stayed in the village quickly walked out of their homes. Cheku entered the village of Laga. When everyone saw that it was Master Belsina who had disappeared for almost 2 months, returning to the valley with Mrs. Lina and the male and female servants in the family, everyone felt very happy and surrounded them to ask about their well-being. Indirectly ask about their eldest son or husband, how their family members who work in the asbestos tile factory of Singer Cement Factory in Sinja Town are doing. I haven't contacted them for more than a month, and I miss them very much. Chapter 56, Rectification, Sanitation of Laga Village. This is human nature. The villagers who work for me in the 2 factories are the backbone of their families. They work for me during the slack season, and then have a 10-day holiday during the grain harvest season, and return to Laga village to collect grain. As for the women, the elderly and children and the family, in addition to going to school, they can also take on some family responsibilities by doing some work in the village. It is natural to just ask about the living and working conditions of the man in charge in the town. Of course, Master Belsina will not answer the questions of these untouchables in person, but the old butler Jamil will tell these people what are the details and living conditions of their men or eldest sons working in the factory in the town. After getting a satisfactory result, Brooke, who was in the lead, was like a majestic rooster, holding his head high and carrying Master Persina through the village, ready to return to the family's castle for more than 100 years. When selling grain, they passed through the farmland, because the farmland had not been planted yet, and the place was large, so it was convenient for those carts to move. Now the farmland has grown to the point where it will bloom and bear fruit. If you want to return to the castle, you can only pass through the center of the village. There are crowds of people around, bowing and greeting Belsina on the sedan chair. It may be that there are too many people and they can't see clearly what is on the road. When they just walked to the center of the village and were about to go uphill, Brooke, who was usually very steady, slipped and the sedan chair on his shoulder fell off. The Honorable Master Belsina fell to the ground. Fortunately, the sedan chair made of bamboo is very soft and has a certain cushioning force, so Belsina did not fall from a height of nearly 2 meters without getting injured. But this accident scared everyone at once. Master Belsina fell down. This is still a good thing to talk about. If Master Singh gets angry, will they, the lowly people, have a way to survive? How can they not be scared? Because the incident happened too suddenly, and the old butler reacted slowly. He saw Master Singh stand up from the chair with his teeth bared. Then he realized what happened and rushed over like a lion, baring his teeth, and falling to the ground. The human flesh Rudd Brooke was screaming. Then he punched and kicked him, beating and kicking him, cursing him. Damn Brooke, why did you fall down? Why did you make the old man fall down? If the old man is in trouble, I can't afford to kill you. I think you don't want to do this glorious job of a human flesh mule. There are many people who want to replace you, you damn guy. Hearing your immediate boss, the old butler Jamal, say this, the human flesh mule Brooke almost fainted. He has been a human flesh mule for Master Belsina since he was a child. He has been carrying Master Singh wherever he goes for more than 10 years and has never made a mistake. Because Brooke's task is to be a human flesh mule and a mount, he can be regarded as a direct subordinate of Master Belsina. He enjoys the best treatment among the servants and does not have to pay a penny for food, clothing and other expenses. Originally, Brooke wanted to finish the mission in Sinja Town and return to Laga village. Brooke's mother was also arranging a marriage for him. The other party was a 14-year-old girl in the same village. The two knew each other and were in love. Unexpectedly, when he returned to the village today, he was so happy that he slipped and fell down from the shelf more than 2 meters high. This was terrible. Wouldn't this cost Brooke's life? If he was really fired by the old housekeeper, his family would be driven out of Laga village. At that time, he would have nothing, not to mention his wife, and even his home. Brooke was so scared that he didn't care about the pain in his body. He got up from the ground crying and came to the feet of Persina, who was standing aside with his teeth bared. He kissed Persina's feet and cried, "Master, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I don't know what I stepped on just now. My feet slipped and I fell down. You can punish me in any way you want, but please don't drive me away. It's been more than 10 years and I can't bear to leave you." Good fellow, Brooke. who was as strong as a bear, hugged his feet and started crying bitterly. He was so scared. That's why this strong guy was so scared. When Brooke fell just now, Belsina knew that the always steady Brooke must have stepped on something slippery. This is why he lost his balance and fell to the ground. In the end, it was not Brooke's fault, but the slippery thing on the ground. What on earth caused me to fall down? It was so infuriating. I just returned home, and I fell down and almost broke my butt in half. It was really intolerable. What on earth dared to plot against Master Belsina? Plus Brooke, a strong boy, was crying, which was really annoying. He raised his foot and kicked Brooke in the face, cursing as he kicked. "You idiot, you're crying and crying. Aren't you ashamed? Are you embarrassing me? Hurry up and hold it back, or I'll beat you up." Just this one sentence made Brooke rise from hell to heaven in an instant. Belsing's grandfather would beat him up, so his job would be saved. Whoever the master hits is his own. Otherwise, how could the distinguished Master Belsina do such a rude thing to hit someone? If he is not his own, he won't beat him up. The whole family knows this. When they hear that the master wants to beat him to death, he won't drive him away. Do you think Brooke can't be happy? Good guy. He fell from heaven to hell in less than a minute, and then jumped from hell to heaven like a rocket. The ups and downs were so fast that he didn't have time to appreciate it. Should he be sad or happy? But when he heard that the kind Master Belsina wanted to know what it was, he made him fall, and then Brooke remembered what made him slip. "How could it be so slippery that I fell? I took my left foot and saw that it stank." It is said that dog shit is a symbol of good luck, and human feces is a symbol of disgust. It is ironic that the culprit for Brooke, a professional human mule, falling down was actually feces. I didn't expect that Master Belsina was calling the shots outside, and his second business layout for accumulating wealth was completed. He happily returned home to decorate the house and get married. I didn't expect that he would be hit by feces as soon as he returned to the village, and his bud was almost broken in half. Who can stand this? It makes sense. Who wants to harm Master Bjergsen? He actually took a green feces on the uphill road connecting the village to the castle. Who is it who has such a sinister intention? It is so shameless to use feces as a hidden weapon. I almost lost my job. Brooke almost caused his family to be destroyed. He jumped up from the ground like an angry brown bear. His red eyes looked at the frightened people and shouted angrily, "Who is it? Who dares to poop on the road leading to the castle? Stand up. Who is the culprit? If I find out, I will break your neck." Chapter 57, Indian style open air toilet. Brooke, like an angry black bear, yelled wildly at the villagers around him with red eyes. They were almost cannibalistic. Who dared to tell the truth? Everyone who made eye contact with Brooke backed away in fear. Good fellow. The crowd centered on Belsina spread out and formed the central area. After comforting Lina, Master Singh saw that the road leading to the castle on the mountain was full of garbage. Human and animal excrement, melon peels, fruit peels, rotten shoes, and even a few dead rats that had rotted. Fat big-tailed maggots moved around happily in the middle of the road. After the crowd dispersed, the smell of these rotten garbage hit them in the face, which was comparable to the smell of the vegetable market in Sinja town. A good mountain village with green mountains and clear waters has been polluted like this by you untouchables. How can it be a home? This is basically a garbage dump. There is no shortage of trees on the mountain. Can't you untouchables cut down some trees or bamboos and build a dry toilet next to your home? Even if a family of 10 people defecate several times a day, digging a larger pit can also last for 10 days or half a month, and then the excrement is taken out and placed in one place, allowing them to decompose naturally. After the excrement decomposes, it will become natural farmyard manure, and it is strong. Mixing it in the farmland will not only increase production and income, but also help to adjust the land diversification. I don't understand why they are so lazy. No matter adults, children, old people or women, they like to defecate in the open air, and defecate regardless of the occasion, and even defecate in the middle of the road. Is it a brain damaged thing or a child under 10 years old? Is it something that should be done? I saw that the volume of the pile of feces was not the size of a child. That is, the adults are really abominable, turning a small mountain village with green mountains and clear waters into a large open air toilet. At this time, Brooke howled for a long time like an angry brown bear, and no one took the initiative to take responsibility. Brooke really couldn't find the culprit. In the end, he had to admit defeat, lowered his head, and came to Belsina and said ashamedly, "Master, I'm incompetent, and I failed to find the culprit. Please punish me." It would be strange if the culprit could be found. Who would dare to admit it in this situation? Anyway, whether they can find it or not, they should rectify it. If the sanitation of Laga village continues like this, infectious diseases will breed in the rainy season. It will rain almost every day, and the excrement of these people and animals will flow into the river at will, or various bacteria or parasite eggs in the farmland. Attached to these plants or rivers, people who go there to take a bath or fetch water to harvest food are easily infected. When a large-scale plague occurs, it will be too late to treat it. For the safety of his own life, for the safety of his wife's life, and even for the safety of his future sons and daughters, it is urgent to clean up the sanitation of Laga village. At this time, the sun has come out, and it is the hottest time of the day. There is no time to talk nonsense with these untouchables, so Master Belsina just got on the bamboo sedan again with a sullen face. He staggered back to the sandstone castle with a yellowish brown exterior with the crowd. Finally, he got home, and Lena was left to do the housework. Butler Belsina returned to the study with the old butler without saying a word. After the two sat down, they naturally had a pot of freshly brewed black tea. The two took a sip, and then Belsina said angrily, "Butler Jamal, you saw what happened just now. It can be said that there is garbage everywhere, and there are human and animal excrement everywhere. Can these untouchables live around these excrement and tolerate the stench? Don't they know how important a clean environment is to the body? No matter adults or children take a slap at random. When did they develop this stinky habit?" Butler Jamal knew what his master was angry about, and who he was angry with. Hearing his master ask this, Butler Jamal could only smile bitterly, put down the teacup, sighed, and said, "Sir, you want to ask me when this habit was formed? I can tell you that it has a history of thousands of years. Not to mention our small mountain village. Even in your New Delhi and Mumbai, the streets are full of this. We Indians are used to defecating in the open. Even if there are toilets, they are reluctant to go in. It is too difficult to change the habits they have formed over thousands of years." Singh naturally took out a box of Camel cigarettes from his pocket, lit it with a plastic lighter, took a deep puff, and then spoke. "I don't believe there is any habit that cannot be changed. I didn't smoke before, but now I smoke a pack a day. Habits can be added and reduced. Give the order and start organizing manpower tomorrow. Choose a vacant lot close to the village and dig a biogas pool. Also, there is a place where toilet garbage is piled up. We won't build a bridge across the river for now. We will build a biogas pool to deal with the human and animal feces and domestic garbage." The old butler Jamal looked around and asked stupidly, "Master, what is a biogas pool? What is it used for? How to build it? I don't know how to supervise it." Seeing the old butler like this, Belsina was speechless. He patted his head and said with a wry smile, "It's not your fault. The construction of biogas digesters is a new popular living facility in Chinese rural areas. We have invited some Chinese decorators. Let them build this biogas digester. It's not a difficult building. A mason can do it. However, the pipes used in the biogas digester need to be bought in Udaipa." Speaking of this, Belsing introduced the working principle of the biogas digester to the old housekeeper. He didn't expect that human and animal feces could actually produce gas. Then it can be burned, whether for cooking or boiling water. It is a very clean energy. Of course, it is easy to explode if not handled properly. Raga, 99% of the villagers are illiterate. If you let them use the biogas to boil water and cook, it will definitely be dangerous. So don't even think about bringing biogas into the house. The only thing is to discharge the biogas into the air in vain. As for the biogas residue and biogas liquid produced, it is easy to deal with. What a good fertilizer. With these things, the crops in the farmland can increase the income by more than 10%. This is all colorful money. At this time, the old housekeeper raised a very serious problem. What should we do if the villagers are not used to going to the toilet to defecate? Or should we return to the old way? How to stop it? Belsina sneered and said, The government couldn't stop these people from defecating in the open before because there were no punishment measures and they didn't scare them. My way to deal with this problem is very simple. If anyone dares to defecate in the open again, the whole family will be immediately driven out of Laga village. Sometimes they lose their jobs in cement factories and asbestos tile factories. They also lose the land they depend on for survival. I wonder if they dare to defecate in the open again. I will catch them one by one and see if they can change these bad habits. The old housekeeper agreed with this punishment measure very much. If these untouchables are not taught a lesson, they will not be able to change these bad habits. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 58. Construction of infrastructure hydroelectric generators. Such severe punishment measures. If anyone dares to defecate in the open and is caught, this kind of punishment measure is unbearable for them. Not only will the mainstay of the family lose the extra income, but even the farmland that guarantees survival will be lost, and they will be driven out of Raja village and become those unemployed vagrants. In other words, beggars, who would like to live such a precarious life. Isn't it just not allowed to urinate and defecate anywhere? Compared with the basis of survival, going to a place to go to the toilet is not that difficult. After discussing these things, Master Singh leaned back in his chair with ease, drinking tea and smoking, and said to the old housekeeper with a smile, "I'm finally home. It's time to take a break. I've been so busy these past 2 months. If it weren't for my good health, I would have collapsed long ago. Have a good meal tonight. Go and tell the kitchen to pick a half-grown fat pig to slaughter. After all, there are so many Chinese people who like to eat pork. Also, slaughtering a sheep will give the servants who stayed behind a good meal. They haven't eaten meat for a long time. Who wouldn't want to eat it?" The old butler nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile, "Master, you are so kind. It is their lifelong happiness to be your servants. The bath water is almost ready. You and your wife can take a bath together. I'll tell the kitchen to slaughter pigs and sheep and have a good meal. We have to let those Chinese workers have a rest so that we can set up the hydroelectric generator tomorrow." Belsina just smiled and waved his hand to let the old butler go out. At the same time, he felt amused and talked to himself. "Let's take a bath together, but I don't have that much self-control. If I hurt Lina, I will never forgive myself. Let's take a bath separately. Although we can't take a bath together, I can still let Lina rub my back." As he said this, he stood up and staggered out of the study and came to his room. He saw Lina directing the maid to hang clothes in the closet. At this time, Belsina hugged Lina from behind with a smile and said in Lina's ear, "The bath water is already boiled. You go and take a bath. I will take a bath after you are done, and then you can rub my back." At this time, the little girl blushed and hummed in dissatisfaction with a mosquito-like voice. "Why don't we take a bath together? I'm not afraid, so what are you afraid of?" Belsina saw that the little girl was talking about the same thing again, and he patted her little butt and scolded her with a smile. "How many times do you want me to explain this to you? I don't have that much willpower. What if I can't help but hurt you? Is our happy life going to end before it even begins? Go take a bath." Lina was not an ignorant little girl. She knew that Brother Bell was protecting her, and she was also very dissatisfied with herself. Others were mothers at the age of 13 or 14, but she had not yet reached the sign of adulthood. It was her fault as a wife that Brother Bell had to endure so much. But it was useless to be anxious. The physiological process of the body could not be transferred by human will. She could only wait. There would be a day when she would wait slowly. So the little girl took her own washing tools and jumped to the bathroom with 2 maids to take a bath. And Belsina returned to the study and quietly looked at all the instructions for the new set of small hydroelectric generators that she had bought, as well as some other important specifications for the construction of living facilities. An hour later, Lina knocked on the door and came in. Seeing Belsina, she smiled and said, "Brother Bell, I have prepared the bath water for you. Come with me. It's not good if it gets cold." Belsinger smiled and walked out with Lina's hand, saying with a smile, "When you rub my back later, use some force. Don't do it like a massage. Can you wash your body clean? In addition, little girl, you should eat more, or you are too thin." The couple talked and laughed, and went to the bathroom. It took an hour to wash their bodies, and walk out relaxed. Then they returned to the room, and slept in each other's arms. They had a good nap, and got up at around 5 in the afternoon. In order to take care of the living habits of the decorators and workers who built the hydroelectric generators, they changed their dinner time to 6 o'clock in the evening. Of course, the identities of the two parties were different, so they ate separately, but the black pigs raised by the Singer family with grain and wild vegetables. Although they were very greasy, they had the taste of domestic pigs, and tasted very fragrant. In addition, every Chinese worker could get a can of beer. The dinner was very rich, and they could eat happily. 2 hours later, these Chinese workers returned to the rooms assigned to them and rested. The next morning, we started to have breakfast at 6 o'clock. After breakfast, Belsinger and the old housekeeper Jamal led the group of workers and the villagers carrying cement, steel bars, sand, and stones. They went up the river and stopped at the very flat alpine grassland. Then the Chinese workers personally directed the male villagers who stayed in the village to start digging the installation position of the generator with shovels. This location is only 200 meters away from the castle at the foot of the mountain. After laying the cable, it can lead all the way to the entrance of the valley. It is so far away from the castle because the generator makes some noise when it is running, and the flat river on the mountain is conducive to the construction of the generator position. Then someone asked, since it is a hydroelectric generator, of course the steeper the water, the better, and the larger the water flow, the generator can be driven. Why is the generator position built in a flat place? That is determined by the climate of India. India is divided into dry season and rainy season. The climate is dry in the dry season. There is little rainfall, and it is very cool. Due to the low rainfall, the river water level drops, and the water is also very flat, which is conducive to the construction of various projects. But when the rainy season comes, it rains every 3 days, and every 5 days, and the water level of all rivers will rise sharply. Even the most gentle river will become turbulent when it goes down the mountain. In addition, the water level at the site where the generator is built is very stable. But this is the narrowest part of the entire Laga River, so the water flow is very fast. Don't destroy the embankment on the riverside first. Dig a square pit with a depth of 2 meters and a length and width of 3 meters on the other side of the embankment. Then use cement and sand and steel bars to build the surroundings and the bottom. After all the cement is dried, place the main body of the hydroelectric generator here, and then connect the transformer. There are also cables for transmitting electricity, and then place an 8-blade propeller that looks like an inverted propeller on the main shaft of the generator. Then use hydraulic power to drive the propeller to rotate the main shaft, and then the inside of the generator will generate electricity through the transformer and then transmit it to the foot of the mountain through the cable. These 8 propellers can be freely extended and retracted, and the position of these blades can be changed according to the amount of water on the mountain. If it is in the rainy season during the flood season, these propellers will be retracted halfway to the river bank, so that the generator can operate normally during abundant rainfall. It can also avoid the sand and rocks rushing down from the mountains to damage the propellers. If it is the dry season, the propeller should be deployed in the middle of the river, so that the water flowing down from the mountains can allow the generator to operate normally. Chapter 59. Infrastructure, Satellite Receivers and Signal Towers. The generator can generate 2000 kWh of electricity every day during the dry season, which can fully meet the needs of the entire Laga village. Of course, the surplus electricity cannot be stored. The surplus electricity can be used to supply signal towers and satellite receivers during the day. It can also be used for street lighting at night. Of course, the investment in these street lights is too large, and such living facilities cannot be achieved at this stage. In the process of site selection and construction of the hydroelectric generator, Belsinger did not need to participate in person, but only put forward some opinions during the site selection process. After the construction of the hydroelectric generator started, Singh took people to the highest peak in the family's territory on the back mountain, which is more than 800 meters above sea level. A mountaintop was completely cleaned up, all the trees on the mountain were cut down, and then a 4-meter high signal tower was erected. Don't underestimate this signal tower, which can meet the needs of mobile phone signals within 5 kilometers around it. After the signal tower is powered on, it can meet the needs of mobile phone communications in the entire Laga village. From then on, Laga village could use mobile phones. After the signal tower was erected, a satellite receiver of 2 square meters was placed on the castle. With this satellite receiver, Gary could watch satellite TV and no longer have to worry about boredom all day long. 5 days later, some more advanced electrical appliances purchased from Udaipa were finally transported back to the valley by Little Jamal. 10 days later, the hydroelectric generator was operating normally and could provide 2000 degrees of electricity per day. Then the mobile phone signal tower and satellite receiver were all connected to the power supply. When the 30-inch color TV at home received the satellite picture for the first time, the whole Singh family was boiling. Finally, they can watch TV and finally understand what the world outside is like. How can everyone not be happy? Moreover, electric lights, mobile phones and even rice cookers can operate 24 hours a day, finally getting rid of the primitive life of working from sunrise to sunset. With a modern look, the expensive electrical appliances bought by Bell Singh finally came in handy. The underground refrigerator in the house finally ended its mission and was replaced by a brand new 150-liter freezer. Because it can be used to store all kinds of freshly slaughtered meat. If it is well preserved, it can be kept for about 6 months. You can even freeze some ice cubes or buy some popsicles and put them in it to solve the hot and humid weather in the rainy season. It is the best partner. With electricity, all electrification can be used, and the decoration of the house has officially entered the schedule. The appearance of the sandstone castle looks very simple and vicissitudes. In fact, it has only 100 years of history. Because it is in the mountains and the effects of rainy and dry seasons, the appearance of the castle looks spotted, but in fact, those are mosses. The design of the castle house is reasonable. There is a garden of hundreds of square meters in the middle. The outside of the castle is all made of solid sandstone. There is no need for any decoration. Plant some creepers and roses. After a few years, the entire castle can be completely covered with greenery. The main content of the decoration is the interior. Shovel off all the coatings used in the castle, and then apply a layer of cement. Scrape a layer of wall dust, and apply bright paint. The floor is paved with tiles for easy scrubbing. Especially the kitchen has been thoroughly transformed. All the rooms were covered with white tiles. A sink was built, and then a gas stove was built. From then on, the habit of burning firewood was changed. The second major change was the bathroom. Of course, firewood was still used to boil water. The boiled water was very soft and conducive to human skin absorption. The only thing that needed to be improved was the small cement bathroom. A bathroom of only 5 square meters could be transformed so that people could not only take a bath, but also swim in it. The toilet was built with a toilet and a wash basin. All the wires in the house needed to be rearranged, and then the plugs were installed. The newly bought expensive large crystal chandelier was placed in the center of the living room, and the surroundings were hung with oil paintings of the patriarchs and wives of the Singh family. Then in the center was a leather sofa, a TV, a stereo, and a satellite phone on the coffee table. The biggest change in the house was the roof. A 5 square meter hole was directly opened, and then a semicircular central air conditioning facility facing the back mountain was built. In this way, the breeze coming down from the mountain can be transported to every room in the castle along the ventilation ducts through this opening of the central air conditioning. This is a natural large air conditioning. Whether it is dry season or rainy season, the air circulation in the whole castle can be guaranteed, and it will not be too humid or stuffy, which solves the problem of moss growing in the whole castle. In less than a month, the earthy yellow castle with 2 floors and very strong combat power has completely changed. The roses or creepers planted by the wall are all thriving, and now they have climbed all the walls of the first floor, which looks very green and comfortable. The interior decoration of the whole castle has also been completed to 80%, and 95% of the decoration materials used are all imported from China. On this day, the most important building in the whole castle is being renovated. That is, the master bedroom, which is the room where the Belsina couple live. It is in the middle of the second floor, facing north and south, and the lighting is very good. When you open the window of the master bedroom, you can see the central garden in the center of the castle. The master bedroom is very large, reaching more than 100 square meters. It used to be just a large room of more than 100 square meters, surrounded by some old and worn furniture. But don't underestimate these furnitures, all of which are made of solid wood and are dark purple. After asking the old housekeeper Jamal, I learned that these dark purple furnitures are all small leaf red sandalwood. After all, India is also the hometown of sandalwood. The old furniture has been sorted and repaired, and it is brand new and elegant. The 100 square meter bedroom is divided into different spaces. There are bedrooms, living rooms, cloakrooms, and a small tea room placed by the sunny window. After a reasonable layout, the bedroom no longer looks so empty. After all, the bedroom is for people to live in. Too big is not popular. At this time, our master Belsina was directing male servants to place those unique Indian furniture in various locations. When he was about to lay the precious Persian carpet on the ground, Belsina felt someone patting his shoulder. Looking back, it turned out to be the little girl Lina, who was very shy and blushing and standing behind him. She wanted to see, but didn't dare to see her performance, which made Master Singh a little at a loss. He reached out and touched Lina's forehead. He didn't feel any fever and didn't look sick. He asked in confusion, "Lina, do you have a cold or a fever? Why is your face so red? Tell me where you feel uncomfortable. Let's go to the hospital." At this time, Lina was not as aggressive as before. She spoke to her husband, Belsinger, in a mosquito-like voice. "I'm not sick, Brother Bell. I had my period this morning and needed to go home to prepare for the wedding, so I came to say goodbye to Brother Bell." Chapter 60. Finally living a normal life. That one is coming. Which one is that? Suddenly, Belsina was confused and stood there in a daze. But suddenly, he saw the little girl shyly blushing. She peeked at him and saw that he noticed the little girl. Then, she shyly lowered her head. She fiddled with the gold bracelet on her hand and looked very embarrassed. Suddenly, Belsina seemed to have finally reacted. He was so excited that his whole body was shaking and his eyes were red. He held the little girl in his arms and asked softly in her ear, "Tell me, little girl, are you an adult? We can live the couple life we dream of together, right? 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 Tell me quickly, right?" The little girl blushed to her ears and nodded gently. At this time, Belsina was about to cry. He picked up the little girl with a laugh and turned around on the ground for several circles. He almost tripped over the Persian carpet, but Belsina was still excited and couldn't calm down. Put the little girl down on the ground and then jump and shout, "Ahahaha, finally ended the life worse than beasts. Finally can live a human life. Shiva bless me, Shiva bless me. I didn't expect that just after the New Year's Day of 2001, there would be such a big surprise waiting for me. I'm so happy. Lina, I really love you too much. Ahahaha." At this time, Lina was also infected by Belsinger's crazy look, not as shy as before, just laughed softly and said, "Our house will be renovated soon, and Lina is so happy that I can finally live happily with Brother Bell at this time. But Brother Bell, I must go home and take back my dowry. This way I can live with you at ease. Don't worry, Brother Bell will not let you down. I will not let go of anything that can be taken back. He. This little girl was laughing there like a little fox, which moved Belsinger beyond words. With such a wife, what else can a husband ask for? The little girl just turned 14, and she already knows how to mess around at home. What can you find wrong with such a wife? A wife who thinks about her husband wholeheartedly is the most perfect wife. At the same time, Belsing also mourned for his fat father-in-law for 3 minutes. With such a daughter who spent all her money, he didn't know whether the fat father-in-law should cry or laugh. After being excited for a while, Belsing recalled that Lina said goodbye to him and prepared to go home to prepare her dowry. Then she returned to her husband's house to live, so that the whole process of the Hindu wedding could be completed. When the two lived together, Lina's name would change. From then on, the little girl's name was Lina Asha Singh, that is, Singh with her surname. From then on, Lina was born in the Singh family and died in the Singh family, and she had no connection with the Asha family anymore. After thinking of this, Singh ran out of his bedroom in a hurry and then stood by the fence and shouted towards the living room. Come here quickly, housekeeper Jamal, come here quickly and find housekeeper Jamal. I have something important to tell you. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. In less than 2 minutes, housekeeper Jamal ran up from downstairs and saw Belsinger with a happy smile on his face. He couldn't figure out what happened to Master Singer, as if he had picked up 5 million. He was so happy and anxious to find him. What happened? Housekeeper Jamal, who didn't understand the situation, asked in confusion. Master, what happened that you are so anxious to find me? At this time, Belsinger really couldn't contain his joy. He pulled the little girl Lina, who pretended to be an ostrich, to his side and whispered to housekeeper Jamal. Of course it's a good thing. Our young lady Lina has finally grown up and plans to go home to get her dowry and marry me. Since you are not in good health, you should quickly arrange someone to carefully escort Lina back to Asha village. Then follow Lina's instructions and bring back all of Lina's dowry. Do you understand? I understand. I understand too well. The old and shrewd housekeeper Jamal has lived to such an old age, and he knows everything. Seeing the young couple couldn't help laughing and looked very embarrassed and shy. He nodded happily, rubbed his hands, and replied with a smile. Don't worry, master. I will personally escort Madam Lina back to Asha village to retrieve her dowry. That's great. That's great. That's really great. With the blessing of Lord Shiva, the Singh family, which has few children, will finally change. Master and Madam, you two must work hard. Try to have 1 child a year and 2 children in 3 years. If you all give birth to sons, you will be worthy of all the deceased people in the Singh family. That's great. I'm so excited. Ha 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 ha. Let's go right away. Seeing the old housekeeper speak so bluntly, the little girl was very embarrassed. She adjusted the position of the sari on her head and almost covered her whole head. Then she was reluctant to let go of Belsing and whispered, Brother Bell, I will be back as soon as possible, and then I can fulfill my responsibilities as a wife. At that time, you must not stand still like before. Belsing heard the little girl say this, and he didn't know whether to cry or laugh. He grabbed the little girl's hand with great dissatisfaction and scolded her with a smile. Little girl, you are blaming me. What do you mean by standing still? If it weren't for your health, do you think I have such great willpower? See how I deal with you. When you come back, I will let you know how powerful Brother Bell is. Don't beg for mercy then. Let's go quickly, otherwise you will have to travel at night in the wind and rain, which is not good for your health. Since she was reluctant to leave, but the separation time was not long, and the separation was for the purpose of reunion, so the little girl looked back every few steps. Slowly, she went downstairs with the old housekeeper and saw Brother Bell waving goodbye to her with a smile upstairs. It seemed to give the little girl unlimited courage. She turned around and never looked back again. She took her 2 personal maids, sat in a sedan chair, and Jamal, the old housekeeper of the Singh family, led a group of male servants and walked out of the Raga village in a mighty manner. After the little girl left, Belsing still couldn't calm his excitement. Just like a clockwork, he ran around to check the progress of the project and urged the workers to finish the work quickly. In a few days, he would become a real man. The 2 of them were newlyweds and of course they had to enjoy the best life. The project must be completed as soon as possible. With a tireless boss like Belsinger personally supervising, the project progressed very quickly. 2 days later, the decoration of the entire castle was successfully completed. Then Belsinger settled all the wages for the Chinese construction team and asked Brooke to personally accompany and escort these Chinese workers back to Udaipa and then buy plane tickets back to China. Chapter 61. Already, just waiting for the right time. After completing the interior decoration of the castle, Belsinger focused all his attention on rectifying the sanitation problems in Laga village. After the biogas tank was built, the dry toilet with 20 toilet seats was completed, and asbestos tiles were luxuriously laid on it. The garbage disposal pool was also completed accordingly. At this time, Belsinger was like a bully who bullied men and women, and he brought a dozen lackeys to the center of Laga village. All the villagers, both adults and children, were summoned to the center of the village, and then sat on the chairs, and enjoyed the black tea very much, while looking at the uneasy villagers and smiling. Everyone also participated in the construction of the biogas tank and toilets. I believe everyone knows what these two living facilities are for. That's right, they are living facilities built to change the sanitary conditions in the village. After seeing that many villagers almost understood what he said, Belsinger stood up from the chair with a stern face, walked to the front of the crowd, patrolled back and forth, and said word by word, "Maybe everyone has heard the news, and knows that Madam Lina has gone back to get her dowry. She will come back, to marry me in a few days, and then we will have a baby soon. I don't want my child to live in Laga village with green mountains and clear waters after it is born and have to suffer from the stinking pollution. Don't you think this is ironic? It's for the health of my future child. So I now declare to all the villagers of Laga, whether you are a paralyzed centenarian or a baby who can walk, no matter you urinate or defecate, you must go to the toilet. All domestic garbage that cannot be degraded will be incinerated. All that can be degraded will be discarded in the garbage disposal pool and then flow into the biogas pool for further treatment. I know that you have been accustomed to solving your own hygiene problems in an open-air environment since ancient times, so it is not easy for you to change the habits formed since childhood. But whether you change or not, you have to change according to my orders. Any inspection team I set up that finds anyone daring to defecate in the open air again, whether in the forest or in any place in the riverside village, will be punished by me if they are caught. The punishment standard is easy to understand. All adults or children caught defecating in the open will be driven out of Laga village. They will lose the opportunity to work in the 2 factories of Singh Industrial Company in the land of Laga village. What will you become by then? I believe you know better than me, so keep an eye on your children. Pack up the livestock you raise, whether it is chickens, ducks, geese, dogs, cattle, horses, pigs or sheep, and pour all the feces into the biogas tank for natural degradation. Did everyone understand what I said? If you don't understand, you can raise your hand and I will answer your questions on the spot. You really don't say it. Although this news is difficult for these villagers to accept, the entire Laga village is the private property of Master Belsingh. These villagers are also slaves of the Singh family. This relationship has been formed hundreds of years ago. These villagers have no way to refute any decision of Master Singh. They can only obey, not refute. Just 2 days ago, everyone knew that Mrs. Lina had grown up and returned to her parents' home to retrieve her dowry. Then they will come to the Singh family to live and have children. This is something that all villagers should be happy about. The Singh family, which is small in number, is about to usher in a big change. At this time, it is understandable that Master Singh cleans up the sanitation in the village. But these villagers are more like what Singh said. They have formed the habit of open defecation for thousands of years, and it is really hard to change it for a while. But Master Singh said that, if you don't change, the factory will be demolished, and you will be driven out of Laga village. At that time, you will have nothing, because of throwing shit. Who can accept such a result? No one will accept it. Even if you don't make changes, you have to change. 99% of the people in the village are illiterate, and don't understand what the degradable household waste, that old man Singh said is. What is non-degradable garbage? Master Singh said that, if you don't understand, you can ask, and he will answer you on the spot. If you make a mistake after the answer is given, it is your own responsibility to accept the punishment, but this punishment is too cruel. No one wants to be punished by Master Belsingh, so everyone raised their hands to ask questions about things they don't understand. An old lady in her 60s raised her hand first to ask Mr. Singh a question. After getting the permission from the master, the old lady asked timidly, "Mr. Singh, what is the degradable household garbage you are talking about? What is the non-degradable household garbage? Can you explain it clearly, so that we know the difference? Otherwise, we won't know, and will make mistakes." Yes, although a little timid, the question hit the point. Belsingh finally smiled, sat back in his chair, lit a Camel cigarette, and then said, "This is a good question. Maybe no one knows what kind of household garbage is degradable. What kind of household garbage is non-degradable, which needs to be thrown into the garbage pool? Which garbage needs to be incinerated on the spot? I will tell you all this knowledge now, and then someone will draw a board with graphics and introductions of non-degradable garbage. Look at the display on this board. Collect the non-degradable plastic garbage and incinerate it. Then he took a sip of tea to moisten his throat before speaking. Degradable substances are natural substances, such as everything produced by nature. This includes human feces, animal fur, dead bodies, or dead grass, fruit peels and fruit cores. Everything that is not artificially made can be degraded. And those items purchased from outside, food packaging bags, clothes, and shoes, all plastic products are not degradable. They must be burned together. In addition, I can give you 3 days to try out the new changes. If you make a mistake within 3 days, I will forgive you. But I will also teach you a lesson. After 3 days, it will be real. If you dare to make a mistake, I will kick him out immediately. In addition to holding a meeting to inform everyone to abide by the rules, Belsinger also publicly requisitioned 2 strong villagers in their 40s to serve as maintenance personnel and pickets for the dry toilets. Big or small, they are also small leaders with some power in their hands. The 2 villagers were so happy that they almost danced with joy when they first mastered these powers. With their heads raised high, they scanned their neighbors like eagles, just to see if they made mistakes. Let these 2 people experience the taste of power, and they will also receive a salary of 1,000 rupees per month. Of course, the habits formed over the years cannot be changed in a day or 2. These villagers have been following their families for several generations. Although they were said to be driven out to beg for food, Belsinger was reluctant to do so. He regarded those slaves who worked hard and never complained as donkeys and horses. However, in order to correct their hygiene mistakes, he still took ruthless measures. He caught one and beat one. The effect was not very good on the first day. He beat 70 or 80 people. The effect was obvious on the second day. More than 20 people made mistakes, and most of them were ignorant children. On the third day, most of the villagers could abide by the rules. As time changes, the living habits of these people will also change completely. At that time, the green mountains and clear waters of Laga village will appear again. Chapter 62, The Asher Family in Chaos. Just when Belsinger organized a picket team and officially started to deal with the environmental sanitation of Laga village, Lina, who returned to the Asher family, almost made the entire Asher family toss up, which can be said to be a mess. Why do you say that? That's because Lina is the youngest daughter of the Asher family and the most beloved youngest daughter who has grown up now. She plans to live in her husband's house to complete the last step of the wedding, but India has such a strange rule that the woman pays the man a generous dowry so that both parties can complete the wedding. If the dowry is not generous, the man has the right to divorce his wife, or he can marry more women without the consent of his wife. Therefore, in the Indian marriage system, women play the role of a vulnerable group, which has little to do with their caste status. In other words, from the Brahmin caste to the Dalit caste, the marriage form is basically the same. It's just that one marriage is a little more luxurious and the other marriage is a little more plain, but the woman pays the man a huge dowry. Of course, women of higher castes cannot marry men of lower castes, which is called reverse marriage, while women of lower castes are encouraged by their families and society to marry men of higher castes, which is called normal marriage. Singh and his wife are both high caste Kshatriyas, and both sides were once equal, which is the most perfect marriage situation. In addition, Lina is the youngest daughter of the family, and the family has prepared a lot of priceless dowries for Lina's happy marriage. But the little girl is now devoted to Belsinger, and of course she is wholeheartedly thinking about her husband's family. She tries to squeeze out the last drop of oil from her own family as much as possible, so that her husband's family can live a better life. So the little girl plunders, and that's called cruel, almost everything she likes, whether it's pestering or throwing a tantrum, all of them are scratched into her dowry box. Lina is the youngest child in the family, with all her brothers and sisters above her, and her parents' pampering status is lofty. She is the daughter of the Asher family. She has developed a very domineering character since she was a child. Everyone has to give in to her. She has been looking forward to her growing up and finally living with her sweetheart, brother Bell. How can she let brother Belsing down? So she dug deep in the Asher family to plunder her dowry. The whole Asher family was cleaned up by the little girl. From her parents to her brother and sister-in-law. Even the top emerald jade pendant from Myanmar on the neck of her little nephew was not spared. She squeezed the last drop of oil from the whole family and was satisfied with her dowry specifications. The little girl almost became the nightmare of the whole Asher family. After plundering for 3 whole days, the little girl returned to her room under the guidance of her mother and sister-in-law. Acting as a student in front of her mother and sister-in-law, the 2 elders began to teach the little girl some life experience or ways of dealing with people. As for imparting some experience of married life to their daughters, when they get married, like in other countries, there is no such process. Why do you say that? That's because India had completed a world-famous book called the Love Sutra thousands of years ago. What's not in it? It can be called the world's most famous sex education book, and Indian girls start to learn the contents of this book from the age of 5 or 6. It can be said that the theory is rich, so the little girl's mother and her sister-in-law are just imparting some experience of husband and wife getting along, or dealing with people. For example, treat your servants well, take good care of your husband and children, and be generous when necessary. It is understandable to sacrifice your own happiness for the benefit of your husband and family, and marry a few more women. Just like your father-in-law, in addition to his mother-in-law, who is the main wife, there are several wives. Of course, these wives do not have high status. The children born do not have a high status in the family. Why does this little girl Lina dare to be domineering in the family, robbing everywhere and even not letting go of her 2-year-old nephew? That's because Lina's mother is the main wife, and the little girl Lina is also the direct daughter of the Asher family, the youngest direct daughter. Baby, so she dared to act so recklessly. In fact, it was a bit redundant for the mother-in-law and the eldest uncle to pass on these life experiences to the youngest girl. Why do I say that? That's because Lina and Belsing were married at the age of 3. They have been good friends since childhood, and they are familiar with each other in school and life. They know each other's personalities very well, and they have almost no secrets from each other, so those ways of being a wife really don't work in front of the little girl. But the little girl still listened to the opinions of the 2 experienced people very seriously, and also wanted to spend some time alone with her mother. After all, it was difficult to see her mother too much when she returned to the Singh family with a dowry, except for some special times and festivals. It has been a rule in India, since ancient times, that a married woman should obey her husband. So Lina, the little girl, changed her bandit nature, snuggled in her mother's arms, listened carefully to the experience her mother taught, and enjoyed the last bit of maternal love. The next morning, the little girl was panting, and had a panda eye, and chatted with her mother until the early morning, but she didn't dare to delay. After counting her dowry, she locked it all with the padlock she had prepared for 45 years, and then followed her brother contentedly. Lisa, dressed in her wedding outfit, sat in a bullock cart, followed by a team led by the old butler Jamal to transport her dowry. Early in the morning, they set off from Arsenal and headed for Raga village where Belsina lived. The prominent figures in the villages passing by would come out to say some words of blessing. At the same time, looking at the endless dowry teams following behind Lina, she was very envious and jealous, secretly hating why she didn't marry such a rich wife. This is a rhythm of 30 years of struggle. With such a rich wife and a rich dowry, she can suddenly improve the strength of her family and quickly get rid of poverty and become rich. It's a pity that their caste status is not equal. Even if she started earlier, Lina would not be able to marry them. So these people could only watch with envy. The procession to escort the bride was very luxurious, but unlike China, there were several men and women who were good at singing and dancing in front. They played musical instruments, danced, and sang, and arrived at the entrance of the Laga Valley in a lively manner. At this time, the entire Laga village, whether adults or children, all dressed up to welcome Lina's return at the entrance of the valley. After seeing Belsing, the eldest brother-in-law, Brusher, smiled and personally helped his little sister Lina off the ox cart, and then handed her to Belsing in a wedding dress. Then the huge crowd followed the 2 newlyweds back to Singer Castle. There was also a sumptuous dinner in the evening, where they could eat, drink, dance and celebrate the official end of the wedding of the 2. Chapter 63, Shocking Dowry Amount. Along the way, the children under 10 years old in the village, dressed in their best clothes, held flower baskets, and scattered petals everywhere, and walked back to Singer Castle in a lively manner. At this time, the newlyweds would return to their rooms in their best clothes, change into another set of formal clothes, and then walk out to the living room hand in hand, to accept the congratulations and worship of the villagers of the entire Aga village. When changing clothes, Lina's style almost scared Belsinger to faint. The weight of the gold jewelry worn by the little girl was too amazing. There were 18 pairs of gold bracelets on both arms, and 18 on one arm, from the wrist to the shoulder. There were more than 20 gem rings on the 10 fingers, and there were also many gold jewelry on the feet, head and ears. It took more than 20 minutes to get these gold jewelry, and they were actually placed in the jewelry box, but Belsinger was very curious. He weighed it with his hands, and found that it weighed 4 or 5 kilograms. He didn't know how the little guy could bear the weight of such a large jewelry. Of course, these jewelry were also part of the dowry. The more gold reserves were important to improve the life of his family, the better. Although he was shocked by the little girl's ability to plunder wealth, these wealth now belonged to the Singh family. In the end, of course, Belsing was the one who took advantage, and could only be happy secretly. After changing clothes and walking out hand in hand, Belsing observed that Lina also had the habit of painting Mendy before. But the pattern of the painting was different this time, but it was still exquisite and very luxurious. The couple sat on the sofa in the living room, accepting the congratulations and worship of the villagers of Laga village. These villagers also dressed up to attend the host's wedding. The gifts they presented, although not worth much, were all the villagers' thoughts. There were all kinds of food, useful things, wild fruits produced in the mountains, etc. And Belsing and his wife would also show their generosity. They would prepare a gift for the villagers, which was much better than those gifts they were obsessed with. It formed a gift package, which was very large, and weighed dozens of kilograms. There were 50 kilograms of broken rice, a set of ordinary Indian white robes for men, and a set of relatively good lisa. There were also 10 meters of pure white cotton cloth for making clothes for children, and 1 kilogram of imported white rabbit milk candy bought from China. In addition, there was a gift for the man who was the pillar of the family, 2 cans of beer and various canned sea fish. There were quite a few things and they were very practical. There were food, clothing and daily necessities. Every villager who received the gift felt that he had made a fortune this time. When they saluted, they were more sincere. The music would not stop until all the villagers of Laga had given and introduced their gifts. At this time, the couple would return to their room to change into another set of clothes and come to the second highest and most luxurious prayer room in the house after the master's room to pray. This prayer room was specially built, and it enshrined the 3 main gods of Hinduism, as well as some other gods believed in by the Singh family. After all, there are thousands of Hindus, and every household has its own favorite gods enshrined in the shrine. It takes more than an hour to pray and recite scriptures. At this time, outside, under the command of Jamal, the next item of the wedding was prepared, which was eating and drinking. The guests who participated in the carnival were very simple, including the villagers of Raga, the servants of the Belsing family, and the relatives of the Asher family. Then someone would definitely ask why the 2 people were of such a high caste, and it was the first time to complete the entire wedding process. Why were there no outsiders or elders to attend the wedding? Why were those important guests not invited to witness the wedding? That was because Belsing and Lina were now completing the last step of the wedding. The 2 had been married when they were 3 years old. That was the beginning of the marriage. The entire Belsing family and the Asher family had invited all their relatives and friends, and everyone they could invite, to attend the wedding of the 2 children. That was the most important and grand moment. Now that the 2 have completed the wedding, they only need their family members to attend, and it is not as grand as when they got married. Of course, the 2 are of the same caste and their status is quite high, so the ceremony of completing the wedding will be so grand. If it were with an ordinary family, the bride would just come to her husband's house with her dowry under the leadership of her brothers. In the future, when Belsinger and Lina have a child, they will celebrate it and invite all relatives and friends. They also need to go to the temple to register and baptize their son or daughter. It will take at least a week. to complete the ceremony for the newborn. After the couple finished praying to the gods, the carnival ceremony officially began. Everyone sat together to eat meat and drink, dance, and sing to the music, and play until the evening. After arranging for their brother-in-law to stay, the couple returned to the room, changed clothes. One walked in front, and the other followed behind, very shyly lowered his head, and held hands to take a bath together in the bathroom. Shameless. After taking a bath, he returned to the room, and lay on the bed to rest. At this time, Lina was an adult, and Belsina could finally live a normal life without having to endure so much hardship. In addition, Indian girls have been learning the Love Sutra since childhood. Theoretical knowledge is so rich, and now it is transferred to actual combat, which makes Belsina feel so happy. Finally, the whole process of transformation from a boy to a man was completed. This process saved tens of thousands of words. As for what posture, and how long it took, and whether it was harmonious, let everyone guess it with their imagination. Anyway, at 12 o'clock the next morning, the couple got up from the bed, and went to the bathroom, to take a shower hand in hand. They appeared in the restaurant, to eat a late breakfast. After the meal, Belsina wanted the little girl to rest for a day, but the little girl refused to agree. Pulling Belsina slowly into the warehouse, there were all kinds of red wooden boxes with locks on them, and Belsina knew what the little girl meant. This was to show him how rich the little girl's dowry was. There were 10 boxes with a volume of 1 cubic meter. Then the little girl took out a bunch of keys from somewhere, opened the boxes one by one, and placed inside were all kinds of elegant and luxurious clothes. 5 boxes for each of men and women. Wow, it would take 10 years to wear so many clothes. After being asked, the little girl blushed and said, "I started preparing these clothes when I was 5 years old. The value of each set of clothes is definitely not less than 3,000 rupees. There are a total of 100 sets. Because it took too long to prepare, I don't know if they are suitable for the two of us. They are all made according to the body of an adult, so they should be fine." Chapter 64, Shocking Dowry Amount Part 2. She had been preparing these clothes since she was 5 years old. It seemed that the little girl acted silly and stupid in front of him, but in fact, she had a lot of ideas. How could a silly girl have such a heavy mind to prepare these things for her future marriage happiness since she was 5 years old? If anyone said that his wife was silly again, Belsina would be the first to slap him in the face. A full 100 sets of clothes for adult men and women were neatly stacked in boxes. They could not be worn out in 10 years, but this was not the end. After the little girl closed and locked the 10 boxes of clothes, she opened 10 smaller boxes on the side. There were some cotton underwear inside, and the things in a few boxes almost made Belsina, who had just lived a happy life, bleed from his nose. There were all kinds of colorful and sexy underwear. I didn't expect the little girl to be quite fashionable. Of course, these were all women's secrets, so Belsina only took a quick look to know what was inside, and then the little girl quickly closed the boxes. Then her blushing and shy look made Belsina drool. He then directed the maids around him to quickly carry these boxes to the master bedroom on the 2nd floor where 2 people lived. There were also 2 red boxes with 3 locks. The boxes were not big, and after opening, they were full of various gold and gemstone jewelry. But at first glance, these gold jewelry looked very simple and generous, and they looked like some antique jewelry that were relatively old. What surprised Belsina the most was that Burmese jade was found in these gemstone jewelry, and the Chinese ones were all uncarved whole pieces of Haitian seed jade. These 2 boxes of things can be said to be priceless, with a preliminary estimate of more than 50 million rupees. It turned out that this was just an estimated price. Even if the family was in trouble, they would not take these gold and silver jewelry out for mortgage loans. This was Belsina's bottom line in dealing with people. No matter how poor and difficult a man is, he can never use women's things to solve his own problems. This is a man's dignity. The little girl looked at him with a pair of big watery eyes and smiled. Belsina knew exactly what she meant. So Belsina gently grabbed his wife's hand and then put it on the lid of the box. Closed the box and let the little girl look into his eyes, and solemnly promised the little girl, "I understand what you mean. This is the family property you plundered from home, so that I can use it when I'm in trouble. But now I solemnly promise you that I will not use your treasures. Even if it is hard and difficult, I will grit my teeth and hold on. These treasures will always be your treasures. When we have a daughter, these things will be given to her as a dowry. Let her live happily in her husband's house, and don't let her husband's family bully her. Women will fall for this trick. The little girl was fooled by Belsina and was stunned. She happily nestled in the arms of her brother Bel. The little girl felt that the world was so beautiful, and that marriage was so happy. This smell corroded the little girl's nerves like drugs. She was obsessed and obeyed her husband. She closed the box, locked it again, and asked the maid to put the 2 boxes of gold and jewelry next to the dressing table in the room for 2 people. After dealing with these things, the other boxes were filled with some daily necessities. Even though these things were daily necessities, the quantity still surprised Belsina. He looked at the things in these boxes and said stutteringly, "Little girl, did you rob everyone when you got home? These things are so rich in variety and quantity. When will they be used up? Look at the sheets and curtains, pots and pans, and even diapers, children's diapers. Did you rob your little nephew too?" The little girl was very embarrassed to be asked this question. She lowered her head, twisted the hand-embroidered pattern on her clothes with her hands, smiled very embarrassedly, and said in a low voice, "It's not as exaggerated as you said. I'm not a robber. Although there are a lot of these things, there are many kinds. But each one can be used. Of course, I have to get it back, otherwise it will be cheap to others. I will get back everything I can get." The little girl is so considerate. Belsina held the little girl in his arms, stroked her hair, and said with emotion, "You are the best wife in the world. You can kill your own family. I really admire you. At the same time, I feel very gratified. These things are all usable. They are taken well and beautifully. How can it be robbery? This is obviously taking, right?" The little girl laughed and nodded and said, "Of course, this is taking, not robbery. We can use everything. Of course, we can save a little bit. There is no use for leaving it at home in the Shah family. Of course, we have to get it back for the 2 of us to use. Even if we can't use it, it can also be used as a gift to reward servants. It's also a good choice. Yes, my wife is right. Isn't it what I want to have such a family-oriented wife? Unlike those wives in China, who always bring things back to their parents' home. In India, it's the other way around. The wife brings things back from her parents' home to her own home, and the means are very tough, but I like it. It just so happens that the warehouse has been renovated, and the rear windows have been equipped with anti-theft bars for ventilation, so the warehouse will no longer grow hair and mold due to the heat. These things were classified and placed on pine shelves, and the specific quantities and names were registered. Then the registration book was placed on the door, and Jamal, the housekeeper who was in charge of the key, could come to the warehouse to use these things at any time. This is not the end. After the couple walked out of the warehouse, they thought they would go back to the living room to rest for a while, but they didn't expect the little girl to pull Belsing's hand and climb up the mountain. Belsing was surprised by the scene he saw. On the alpine grassland, there were actually 10 young and strong dromedaries grazing and strolling leisurely on the grassland. After all, Rajasthan borders Pakistan, the western region is semi-arid, and there are some deserts, so camels are a very valuable livestock in India, especially in northwest India. Camels can provide dairy products, camel wool, camel meat, and can also be used to pull carts and ride, so the role of camels is very strong. Each healthy adult camel, whether male or female, is worth more than 100,000 rupees, which is equivalent to tens of thousands of yuan. In addition to these 10 camels that have just grown up, there are also 200 purebred black goats. Although the local black goats are not as big as boar goats, they have delicious meat and strong disease resistance. The biggest feature is that they can give birth. A female goat can give birth to at least 2 lambs per litter, and as many as 5 or 6. These black goats mature quickly and grow rapidly. They can be slaughtered in 4 months. They are livestock with great economic value. In addition to these, there is more than 2 million rupees in cash in the dowry, and a gold jewelry store property certificate on a busy cross street in Sinjar town with an area of hundreds of square meters. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 65, Where to Go for Honeymoon. Cruel, strong, and bold, Belsinger couldn't help laughing when he thought of his fat father-in-law looking at his empty house with a sad face and gnashing his teeth. His father-in-law had saved up his fortune all his life, but he didn't expect that his little daughter couldn't get 1/3 of it. It would be strange if he didn't cry. This is a lesson for me. If I have a little girl, I must keep an eye on her, otherwise I will move half of my fortune to my husband's home. What will I eat and drink as a father? I have worked hard all my life and gave it all to others. Who can bear this? These black goats grow fast, have tender meat, and produce a large number of lambs. The ratio of male to female is 1:3, which means that 1/3 are male breeding sheep. The other 2/3 are ewes, more than 80% of which are pregnant with lambs. They will give birth in a few months. Raising them will also be an income. In addition, there are 2 males and 8 females in the 10 camels, and they are all just adults. The utilization value is about 10 years. With an average of 2 births every 3 years, a herd of hundreds of camels can be formed in 10 or 8 years. At that time, whether it is to kill the meat and sell it, or to take these camels to the livestock market such as Pushkar far away and sell them, it will also be a lot of money. With these camels and black goats, endless reproduction is much more reliable than the money brought by those. Money will be gone once it is spent, but these livestock will give birth to babies, and the number will increase every year. In this way, wealth will also increase, so it is much better than those rupees that often depreciate. After seeing the dowry brought back by his wife, Belsing was very satisfied and smiled at everyone he saw. A smiling face made the servants in the house feel much better. They no longer did things as carefully as before, and their smiling faces began to increase. For Belsing and Lina, their married life is still happy. After all, the two have known each other since childhood, and went to the same school, and lived under the same roof. It can be said that they are inseparable childhood sweethearts. This kind of happy marriage life is still very rare in India. There are many reasons why those families with unhappy marriages are unhappy. But divorce is rare, which is also a feature of India's national conditions. Cruel means such satiating husbands are common, and divorce is unthinkable. Of course, men have the right to divorce their wives, and women have the right to remarry, but remarrying a second or third husband is a shameful act for women. Even if the marriage life is not very happy, and they are often beaten and scolded, there are very few women who take the initiative to divorce. Anyway, Belsing has never seen an Indian woman who takes the initiative to divorce since he was a child. He got married, and the house was decorated beautifully a few days ago. The various home appliances he bought back were not wasted. Finally, he can watch satellite programs and doesn't have to sleep and eat all day. Belsing cut off some of his fat. Now he looks almost 1.7 meters tall, but he has a chubby face. His figure is good. At least he got rid of the swimming ring and completed the transformation from a fat man to a handsome man. That night, the TV program was playing a scene about the life of Indians in Singapore. Singapore is a relatively developed Asian country. It is also the shopping paradise in Asia, second only to RB. When I was in China, I heard that Singapore, Malaysia and Thailand are tourist destinations. I have been married for a few days. The 2 factories in the town are running normally with 2 professional managers, and they make a lot of profits every day. My Sing building material store is even more busy, and the funds that pass through every day exceed hundreds of thousands of rupees. It can be said that it makes a fortune every day. The crops planted on the ground in the Laga Valley have bloomed, and they can be harvested in 2 months. It can be said that all of Belsing's assets are developing in a good direction. Everything is on the right track, and it can still operate without Belsing watching at home, which means that it can make money with or without me. In addition, no matter what, I should take my wife out for a honeymoon and go abroad for a tour. Is this worthy of my rich life? There is another reason, that is, the little girl has never left India. If she doesn't go out to play now, she will have no time and energy to go abroad after 2 years of having a child. So Belsing began to plan in his heart where should he and Lina take their honeymoon trip. After thinking about it, he chose 3 places. The first one is RB, the most popular shopping paradise in Asia. The second place is Singapore, where Indians gather, and then Malaysia, which has a tropical beach style. The 3 places are good, some are good to eat, some are good to play, and you can also go shopping. In order to give Lina, a silly girl, a surprise, Belsing did not reveal any information, but prepared secretly. The next morning, he found the old butler Jamal. The 2 of them whispered in the study for more than an hour, and then Jamal took various documents and ran to Jaipur, the capital of Rajasthan, to handle the calling procedures and passports of Belsing and Lina. The entourage was set at Brook, the human mule, and his own little follower and bodyguard Jamal. As for the old butler, he stayed at home to control the overall situation. After all, the boss has left, and there must be someone watching at home. The old butler is prestigious and powerful enough to make those professional managers bow their heads. The most important thing for traveling abroad is the passport and documents, as well as foreign currency reserves. After all, you can't go to RB to spend Indian rupees. RB people don't recognize this kind of money, so you can only exchange a large amount of foreign currency at the Central Bank of India. But the Japanese yen is really worthless. A total of 800,000 rupees were exchanged for Japanese yen, which reached hundreds of millions of dollars. In addition, there were a lot of currencies from Singapore and Malaysia. A week after the wedding, after the couple had a passionate love affair in bed that night, Belsina smiled and patted Lina's little butt and said with a smile, "Lina, you have an important task to complete tomorrow morning. I don't know if you can do this job. I'm very worried about this." The little girl raised her head with a red face and asked stupidly, "I still have a task, what is it?" "Anyway, it's very boring to stay at home, and I do things very well. Don't worry, I will definitely be able to do it and complete it. Tell me what tasks you have for me." I didn't expect the little girl to be so excited. It seems that living in this quiet mountain village still makes the little girl a little uncomfortable. At the age of 14, it is the time for Lina to be lively and romantic. It is a bit difficult for her to stay in this small mountain village with greenery and a slow pace of life every day. Fortunately, she is prepared. She will be very excited to travel abroad to 3 countries. If she makes any request, she will definitely not refuse. Thinking of these little interests between husband and wife, Belsina wants to turn into a werewolf immediately. Chapter 66 finally responded. In order to give the little girl a surprise, nothing can be revealed now, so Belsina just smiled and said mysteriously, "I will go out to discuss a business in 2 days, and I will take you with me. So tomorrow morning you have to pack some luggage for the 2 of us, and we will leave after I arrange things at home." The little girl thought it was a big deal. It was just packing luggage, just those clothes. What's the big deal? I thought I could find something to do to relieve my boring life, but I didn't expect it to be such a small thing, which made the mysterious little girl extremely dissatisfied. She turned her head to the other side and muttered, "It's nothing big, just packing luggage. Packing luggage is easy for me. Go to sleep. It can be done in half an hour today. It would be nice if we can go out for a walk. Going around, if you know where to go, you will go crazy." Belsina couldn't help laughing when he thought of the crazy look of the little girl. He didn't care to take back his arm, turned around and hugged the little girl and fell asleep. The next morning, before Belsina got up, the little girl began to rummage through the boxes and cabinets to organize things. Fortunately, the entire master bedroom was divided into independent spaces, and organizing the luggage in the cloakroom did not affect Belsina, who was sleeping in the room. It was not until after 10 o'clock that he got up from the bed, went to the newly built master bedroom bathroom to take a shower and solve his physiological hygiene. Then he and Lina walked hand in hand to the small restaurant to have breakfast. That afternoon, he led the entourage to climb the mountains and cross the river for a whole day, and arrived at Sinja town at around 7 o'clock in the afternoon. He lived in a house in the town and rested after dinner. At 10 o'clock the next morning, while the little girl went out to buy daily necessities, Belsina took advantage of the gap The managers of the two factories who had been waiting impatiently for a long time, as well as the store manager of the building materials store, all came to the living room and held a meeting with the old housekeeper Jamal. He arranged his work schedule when he was not in India, and also explained to everyone the role of Jamal's housekeeper who stayed at home, which was to supervise the flow of funds in the 3 factory stores. All fund flows exceeding 100,000 rupees must be reported to the old housekeeper and can only be operated after the old housekeeper's review and approval. This ensures the transparency of the 3 company stores to the greatest extent. With someone from his family as a guard, the 2 professional managers and 1 store manager feel relieved. With someone supervising, the flow of funds has nothing to do with themselves, and they don't have to be so cautious about making mistakes. At that time, they will still be hurt. With someone supervising, it has nothing to do with themselves. Several people felt relieved and quickly nodded and agreed. Since all these industries have just started, basically all the profitable funds will be fed back to the newly established companies. Let the company's various equipment and factory facilities be added or repaired. So if you want to recover the funds, it will not be completed without a few months or half a year. Anyway, the family has money to spend and is not in a hurry to use the limited funds for expanding the business. This gives some comfort to several managers and store managers. Belcina will not do such a thing as killing the chicken to get the eggs. After giving his instructions, the 2 managers and the store manager reported to him how much progress the business they were responsible for had made during this period of time. He was talking happily when he didn't expect the door to creak, and he heard Lina and the maid beside him walking in, talking and laughing. Seeing Belcina and his people sitting in the living room to discuss things, he smiled slightly and greeted several managers. Everyone is here. You have a meeting. I will wash the fruits and make tea for you. Stay for lunch later. I bought a rare pommes frites today. Try my cooking, and I guarantee you will be satisfied. Seeing the lady say this, several managers and store managers quickly stood up and saluted the lady and said with a smile, "Thank you, madam. We are hungry, haha." At this time, the meeting was almost over. Belcina lay on the sofa and asked Lina with a smile, "You're back so soon? I thought you were going to spend a few more hours. I've already arranged everything. Let's rent a car to Udaipur this afternoon, and then to Jaipur. You have to prepare well, and we'll leave this afternoon." Lina is a very virtuous woman. She had packed all her luggage and left in the afternoon, but she had to eat lunch. So she cooked to reward her husband and his important subordinates. Seeing Lina walk into the kitchen, she sat back on the sofa. She quietly asked Belcina how long he planned to set his honeymoon trip for. Just 1 month or 2 months. Seeing this young couple so loving, they, the middle-aged people, also felt very envious. They got married basically at the behest of their parents and the matchmaker. Before they got married, the two didn't know each other at all. After they got married, they only met a few times and lived together when they were adults. Various life conflicts broke out. Although they didn't get to the point of divorce, they didn't believe how deep the relationship between the couple was. This time, we finally went out to play. Of course, we had to have a good time and give Lina an unforgettable honeymoon trip, so the time was set to at least 1 month. As for how much time it takes, it depends on the itinerary. When you are tired, you can come back, and the time cannot be set. Let's arrange it randomly. At noon, we had fried pommes frites. It was flat with few thorns, a lot of meat, and very tender and juicy. It tasted very good. After eating, we packed up, and then Belcina took his wife and entourage, and waved goodbye to the old housekeeper, factory manager, and store manager who saw them off. We boarded the most luxurious off-road vehicle in the entire town of Sinjar, and then swayed towards Udaipur. Since it is now the dry season, the rainfall is relatively low. In addition, India's infrastructure is too backward. The road from Sinjar to Udaipur is still a dirt road built during the British colonial period. The car was running with dust all over the sky, and the scenery on both sides could not be seen at all. The windows could only be closed tightly to prevent dust from coming in. After wandering around for a few hours, they finally arrived at Udaipur, an important city in the south, at night. To be honest, Udaipur is an important city in Rajasthan. The prosperity of Sinjar town is not comparable to that of the town. At least you can find a star-rated hotel to live in, and the price is not cheap. If you want to have fun, you don't have to care about how much money you spend. Of course, you have to have the best food and accommodation. What's more, it's no big deal to spend a few thousand yuan to live in a star-rated hotel with the 2 million rupees of dowry brought by Lina. The restaurant of Udaipa Hotel is so luxurious that it makes little Jamal, who lives in a star-rated hotel for the first time, and Brooke, a human mule, feel like a bumpkin entering the city. Everything they see feels very strange, but these people are still quite qualified to follow their masters, never leaving the team, and never asking questions like a fool. They feel like they want to understand everything they see. The performance is pretty good, so at dinner, the dishes eaten by these servants are all ordered by Belsing for them, and each dish is expensive. Chapter 67, Strange Things on the Train. After a good meal and a good sleep, we took a train to Jaipur, the capital of Greater Rajasthan, early the next morning. The train ride was an eye-opener for these country bumpkins. My god, there were so many people at the train station, with big bags and small streamers carrying things. When getting on the train, they all rushed in. The young and strong people climbed through the window and then took their luggage and put it on the luggage rack. Now the old and weak can only watch these young people do whatever they want. After more than 10 minutes, these old and weak people can slowly line up to get on the train. But when getting on the train, if you want to grab a seat, even if you have a ticket that stipulates that this seat belongs to you, who made you come late. However, if you ask those young people to give up their seats, there will definitely be a conflict between the two sides. To be honest, 90% of the people in India are illiterate. There is no habit of respecting the elderly and loving the young. The young are young and strong, and they have advantages. They don't care about what the old people say. If you don't do it, they will punish you. Of course, there are caste distinctions everywhere in India. The train has more than a dozen carriages, and the first 5 are VIP areas for high castes. It is acceptable for everyone to line up to get on the train, and then sit in their own seats according to their train ticket numbers. Luggage is usually neatly stacked on the luggage rack. People who take the train are all high castes, educated, and well educated, and they don't carry those strange things. Of course, the VIP area for high castes is not like those servants. Only Jamal, a servant of the Vaishya caste, can serve Belsing and his wife closely, and the human mule Brooke can only take one person to sit in the carriage for civilians after the 6th carriage. Since Belsing got on the train with his wife Lina earlier, he saw the chaotic and abnormal scenes on the platform. But everyone was curious when they heard the lively scene behind them. Although Lina was married, she was also a 14-year-old girl. How could she join in the fun? I couldn't see it, so I could only open the window of my seat and stick my head out to see why it was so noisy and lively behind. The window was open, but before I could stick my head out, a leg appeared on the roof and fell right beside the window of the VIP compartment. You thought I wanted to open the window to see the scenery outside, but I didn't expect that. As soon as the window was opened, a thigh fell down from it, dangling there. Can you imagine that there is someone on the roof, and she was sitting next to the train? If she fell down, would she still be alive? This situation scared Lina, and she fell into Singer's arms with a cry. Obviously, she was scared, which made Belsinger feel very angry. I don't care what your status is, who dares to scare my wife, I will never forgive you. So Belsinger comforted Lina first, then looked at Jamal, who was sitting next to him with a fierce look, and pointed at the leg that was dangling by the window, wearing a pair of cheap plastic flip-flops, and cursed. Idiot, what are you still standing there for? Pull down the owner of this leg. He dared to sit on my head. It's not okay to sit outside the carriage. He even scared Lina. I'm going to make him pay. I don't think he can take this train anymore. After receiving instructions from his master, how could little Jamal be polite? Besides, no one could stand a dark-skinned, dusty Bigfoot dangling by the window. When the train starts, there will be wind, and the smell of stinky feet will blow all over the warm carriage. You can't even talk about whether you want to eat or drink water. In addition, the owner of this thigh is so abominable that he scared his respected lady like this. So little Jamal immediately took off his coat, sat up from the chair, and quickly ran to the door of the carriage. He returned to the platform and fell along the window until he found the owner of this thigh. Then, without thinking, he clamped the other's ankle and pulled it down. Then a scream was heard, and a boy in his 20s with ragged clothes and black hair was dragged down. You can imagine the Indian trains. Although they were made in the 1970s and are not very high, they are still 2 or 3 meters high. Falling from a height of 2 meters with a split, this difficult action is unbearable for anyone other than a professional gymnast, so he sat on the ground screaming and touching his thigh roots, rolling on the ground in pain. This is not the end. Jamal felt extremely angry when he saw that the other party was actually a Dalit who was the most unwelcome and untouchable. He went up and punched and kicked. The shoes on his feet were pure leather and hard-toed. When they dripped on people, they made a cut immediately. After a few hits, the other party was bleeding and holding his head and rolling on the platform wailing. But when the people around saw Jamal being violently abused by a young man, no one dared to step forward to fight or persuade him. To foreigners, the two people are basically the same. Even if there is a difference, one is the perpetrator and the other is the one who is being beaten. But Indians can tell the difference between two people at a glance. The one with the holy thread on his wrist has fair skin and is well dressed, so he is a high-caste person. The other one is wearing tattered clothes, with a chicken coop on his head and dark skin. The most important thing is that he is wearing a pair of worn-out plastic flip-flops. When they fell to the ground and hugged each other, others could see a thick layer of calluses on the soles of each other's feet. It is obvious that the other person is a Dalit. Only people who are not allowed to wear shoes and go barefoot for many years will have such thick calluses on their feet. This kind of Dalit is not even as good as a slave. Being beaten by a high-caste master is because the other party must have done something unforgivable and angered this high-level master, so he deserves to be beaten to death. 5 minutes later, little Jamal could no longer be beaten, and the Dalit who was threatening people on the roof of the car was lying on the ground, breathing less and breathing more, and had fainted on the platform. At this time, the staff of the railway station, just like the police in gangster movies, the gunfight was over. The police who arrived wore neat uniforms and held a wooden stick more than 1 meter long in their hands to drive away the onlookers. Then an official with a star on his shoulder asked about the situation at the scene. Then he glanced at the holy thread in Jamal's hand with the corner of his eye. He immediately determined the other party's caste and asked Jamal, who was panting with his hands on his waist, very politely, "Sir, what happened? Why did you have a conflict with this person?" It would have been better if the damn policeman didn't ask. When he asked Jamal, he was furious and excitedly pointed at a group of onlookers who were still standing on the high-class carriage and roared, "You still have the nerve to ask me what happened? We spent thousands of rupees to buy tickets for the high-class carriage. We were actually stepped on by these untouchables on the roof of the carriage. You know who is in the carriage without me telling you. Don't you think you policemen should do something? What are you doing letting these untouchables step on my master's head?" Chapter 68. It is not too much to beat him to death. Although the policeman being questioned had a very bad face, his face changed when he looked up and saw the people standing on the roof outside the high-class carriage. Now the roof of the high-class carriage was full of people, either sitting or standing there to watch the excitement, and there were even more people on the roof of the civilian carriage behind. As the captain of the police at the railway station, these things were not strange to him. Indians took the train in all kinds of ways. Some lay on the door of the train, some sat on the roof to enjoy the scenery, and all kinds of weird behaviors existed, which had formed an unwritten rule. Moreover, these people standing on the roof of the train also bought tickets, but they bought standing tickets. As for where they stood on the train, it was not their business. People paid money to stand on the train with tickets, and even the train attendants had no right to drive away these people standing on the roof of the train with tickets. This kind of thing was not reported by the people and the officials did not investigate. It was fine before, but seeing that the owner of the Vaishya caste who beat people must have a very high status, he was very concerned about whether there was someone standing on top of his head. After all, Hinduism believes that the top of a person's head is very sacred. Except for the barber, no outsider would touch it. Now the problem has finally erupted. The people in the high-class carriage are all high-caste people, that is, the lord class. I didn't expect that there were people standing on top of the carriage, and there were untouchable people like Dalits. He didn't even want to let the other party touch his shadow, but he didn't expect that these untouchable people would actually stand on the heads of noble lords. This is still a matter of discussion, and it's not worth it. Now only one high-caste lord reported this matter. If all the high-caste lords in the entire carriage knew about this, he would not be able to work as a police captain. It's okay to not know anything, but knowing it would be outrageous. While the situation has not changed, the police captain was sweating coldly and pointed at the people standing in the high-class carriage with the fat man in his hand, cursing. "All of you damned untouchables, get out of my way. Can you stand in the high-class carriage? Hurry up and move back. I'll break your legs." Seeing that the crowd was moving very slowly, the police captain was sweating profusely. He quickly used a stick to drive away the dozen or so colleagues following him, cursing. "What are you rubbish still doing here? Hurry up and get up with your weapons. If anyone walks slowly, I'll hit him in the head and kill him. I'll also arrange 2 brothers with good skills to go up to the roof of the train to escort them. Keep an eye on these bastards and don't let them stand on the high-class carriage. Hurry up and move." These policemen are not fools and know the seriousness of the situation. In addition, Indian policemen are notorious for violence. Although they dare not beat or drive away those high-caste masters, they can be beaten up by catching some Shudras or Dalits and making them unable to take care of themselves for half a month. That's considered light. The wooden sticks in the hands of the police are not for decoration, but important weapons for beating people. After getting the permission from their leader, the policemen began to climb up the stairs on both sides of the carriage like wolves and tigers. Then they stood on the roof of the car and raised their sticks very skillfully to beat the slow-moving people on the head without thinking, making them scream and run to the roof of the car behind them. Screams and curses came one after another. At this time, the police captain wiped the sweat from his head and said politely to Jamal, "Sir, do you think you are satisfied with this treatment? In addition, this damn Dalit is handed over to us. Will he know what rules Dalits should abide by? I would like to ask for your forgiveness for the inconvenience caused. This kind of thing that angers both humans and gods will never happen again in the future." At this time, the train whistle sounded. In 2 minutes, the train will leave. There is no time to talk nonsense with the police captain. So little Jamal angrily kicked the unconscious Dalit on the ground twice in the face, kicking his face full of blood, and then walked up from the door angrily. Then he sat down next to Singh and whispered, "Master, I didn't expect that the other party was actually a Dalit. Don't scare your wife like this. When we get to Jaipur, we should go to the temple to find a Brahmin to perform a ritual to drive away the bad luck. Otherwise, you will have bad luck for 3 years. Master, please rest assured that the other party has been beaten half to death by me, and if the police beat him up, he will probably die." Bel Singh didn't care about the life and death of a Dalit. Singh was still concerned about whether his wife Lina would have sequely after being so frightened. But when the train started, Lina returned to the character of a silly, innocent and carefree little girl. She screamed and shouted at the scenery outside the train. When she saw some strange things or buildings, she would pull Bel Singh to scream and shout. Seeing the little girl regain her lively and lovely appearance, Bel Singh finally breathed a sigh of relief. But for Lina's future happy life, it is still necessary to find a Brahmin elder to perform a ritual to ward off disasters and bring blessings. It is worth mentioning that Indian trains are slow and late, which is famous all over the world. In addition, the infrastructure is backward, and the rails are narrow gauge railways built during the British rule. It is strange that the trains can run fast. The speed of the trains will not exceed 30 km per hour, and it takes more than 7 hours to reach Jaipur, so lunch is solved in the train restaurant. Trains are also important infrastructure for national operations. Every train bound for a big city has high-class carriages and low-class carriages. People sitting in high-class carriages are people of status. These people include Brahmin monks and elites of the Kshatriya caste, and the weather in India is hot. When you take a train, you can't always bring your own lunchbox on the train. With such a high temperature, it will stink after a few hours, so high-class carriages will be equipped with special Brahmin chefs. Prepare lunch for the people in the high-class carriage. The style of lunch is very classic, with vegetables stewed in curry, corn and wheat pancakes, and some processed fruits and water. It is impossible to eat well and be full. It is a blessing not to be hungry. Fortunately, the experienced housekeeper Jamal has prepared it in advance. Let his grandson Jamal carry a black shoulder bag with a hard box inside the big bag. After opening it, there is still cool air inside. 2 metal lunch boxes are put together with ice cubes. When the metal lunch box is opened, there are 4 independent small lunch boxes. The lunch box contains fried rice, curry mutton, curry chicken nuggets, and a small lunch box of fruit salad. These dishes and rice are all chilled, so they need to be heated before they can be eaten. After paying 200 rupees for heating, the couple sat in their seats and had a good meal. Then Lina, who was tired from playing, fell asleep on Belsing's thighs. They have been swaying for a full 9 hours and arrived at Jaipur railway station 2 hours late. Chapter 69. Expensive Ritual. Although it was late, Jaipur was the capital of Rajasthan. It was a bustling street with bright lights and heavy traffic. We took a few taxis at the train station and looked at the scenery outside the window while chatting with the taxi drivers to inquire about the customs and practices in Jaipur. Then we came to a 4-star hotel called Ramal in the city center and asked for a few rooms and then had a sumptuous dinner in the restaurant. The young couple living in the luxury suite felt very happy. If there were outsiders present, the two could remain calm. It seemed that they didn't care about anything, but when no one was around, the young couple finally released their curiosity, running around in the room and being curious about everything. It might also be because of physical reasons that Belsing felt like a real 15-year-old boy. He liked to play and like new things. In addition, the two had just gotten married, and it was even more exciting in this unfamiliar environment, so this night was a toss. At about 10 o'clock the next morning, Belsing and his wife, dressed in traditional Indian clothes, took little Jamal in a taxi and came to the largest Indian temple in the city center. I bought some coconut garlands and other gifts for the gods at the door, and then took off my shoes on the right side of the temple. The right side is considered noble in India, so there are not many shoes on the right side, but each pair of shoes is neatly placed, and each pair of shoes is expensive. There is no one to watch over them, but no one dares to touch these shoes, unlike the place where the civilians put their shoes on the left, which is a mess. Sandals and slippers are everywhere, waiting for you to take off your shoes and enter the temple. After worshipping, when I came out, it was almost impossible to find my shoes. They were worn by others, or they were placed in the pile of shoes and I couldn't find them at all. But people can't walk barefoot, right? You can just find a pair of shoes that suit your foot shape, then wear them and walk away. Even if the owner sees them later, he won't care too much. Everyone walks in other people's shoes like this, which is also a feature of Indian temples. After entering the temple, everyone, regardless of gender, must be barefoot. The white marble is sunburned hot, and walking on it feels like a foot massage. When you come to the temple gate, you can see a curtain erected in the middle of the gate. People can pass through both sides of the curtain. The right side is for the nobles and the left side is for the common people, so Belsing led people to walk from the right. After entering the temple, the crowds on both sides automatically separated, and then worshipped the 3 main gods of Hinduism respectively, and then a large statue of Shiva would be placed on the right. After all, this temple is dedicated to Shiva, and the owner of the temple must be the biggest, especially in front of the statue. There is a black dali carved linga, which is a cylindrical stone. Below is a round stone base of the same physique, and it is very large. This linga represents the reproductive organ of Shiva. It is a sacred object. Every Shiva temple has this linga. Every male who worships will touch it and pray for his body to be strong, his fertility to be improved, and he will have more sons. After worshipping Shiva, I came to the back of the temple and found the Brahmin elder of the temple and explained my intention. This temple is located in the center of Jaipur. It is the largest temple in Jaipur. There are many Brahmin priests in the temple. They are of high status. If you want to ask the Brahmin elders to perform the ritual, the cost is quite high. It is 50,000 rupees. Moreover, all the expenses of the ritual are borne by Belsing, and the ritual takes a day. It happens that we have time today, so let's do it. In order to eliminate Lina's psychological barriers, it is worth spending any money. The Brahmin elders' rituals are very complicated, with chanting and various rituals. After 7 or 8 hours of tossing, the ritual was officially completed. When I left, I got half a coconut gland and some rice products like rice popcorn. I spent 80,000 rupees to get such a little thing. I don't know whether I suffered a loss or took advantage, but after seeing the ritual, Lina's mood was indeed much better. The happy little girl is back. It is worth spending any money. The next day, the couple came to Jaipur hand in hand and took a good look at this ancient city. After tasting some famous local delicacies, when we returned to the hotel, Jamal made a mysterious okay gesture to himself. It seems that the plane ticket and passport issues are all settled. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon of the third day, when the confused Lina followed her husband Belsing to Jaipur airport, the little girl finally reacted. She covered her mouth in surprise and looked at Belsing with her big watery eyes in disbelief and said tremblingly, "Brother Bell, aren't you here to discuss business? Otherwise, it would be impossible to take a plane to go abroad. Are you going to give me a surprise? A romantic honeymoon trip? Why didn't you tell me earlier? You really have to give me a surprise. This surprise is really big. I really like it." As she said that, she threw herself into Belsing's arms like a little swallow and finally got out that the first stop of this honeymoon trip was RB by acting coquettishly and playing tricks. At this time, the little girl returned to normal and sat in the waiting hall to ask Belsing, "Brother Bell, why don't we go to Europe for our honeymoon? Why did we choose RB instead? What's fun about RB?" It's understandable why the little girl asked this question. Because Britain ruled India for 100 years, India has been very westernized. Even in the most remote villages, illiterate people can speak a few words of English, and Britain is a paradise in the minds of all Indians. Europe, where Britain is located, is the center of the world. Of course, the first choice for a honeymoon trip is Britain, and then Europe. As for choosing RB, a nation country, it is very alternative. Seeing that the little girl didn't understand, Belsing had to explain it. If the little girl was unhappy, this honeymoon trip would not be perfect, so he hugged the little girl and said with a smile, "You don't know this, right? RB is the most developed country in Asia and a paradise for shopping. We go to RB for nothing else but food and shopping. In addition to RB, we can also go to Singapore. After all, there are many Indians living in Singapore. Then, we can go to Malaysia to enjoy the tropical beach scenery for our honeymoon. Is there anything else we are not satisfied with?" Women all over the world have a common problem, that is, shopping addicts. When they hear the word shopping paradise, every woman's eyes light up. The little girl is no exception. Although Lina has lived in Rajasthan, India since she was a child, the only time she went out was when she went to Delhi, India with her family, to bathe in the holy river. Apart from that, she has basically never left the house. But the little girl has received higher education and has extraordinary knowledge and taste, which is not something that ordinary people can catch up with. Of course, when you come to RB, the shopping paradise, you have to make a big purchase. Thinking of this, the little girl can accept not going to the UK for her honeymoon. And she began to calculate in her heart what kind of things she should buy in the shopping paradise of Tokyo or Ginza with great interest. Chapter 70, Funny Stories About Airplanes Part 1. To be honest, whether in this life or in the previous one, Belsing didn't like the people of RB. It's hard to say how much he hated them, but it's impossible to say that he had a good impression of them. So why did he choose RB Ginza as the first stop for his honeymoon trip? The reason is very simple. This is a shopping paradise. As long as you have money, there is nothing you can't buy here. Apart from Hong Kong, this is one of the most prosperous commercial cities in Asia. Singh's family is in the Laga Valley, which is a remote mountain village anyway. Even if you have money, you can't enjoy those superior modern lives. So you can only fill these emptiness in other ways. Coming to RB Ginza is for this purpose of shopping. A large number of purchases, and then returning to the quiet life in the small mountain village. So the first stop in RB was Ginza, which is known as a shopping paradise. Of course, the little girl who was flying for the first time seemed very excited, but when the plane took off, the little girl sat on the chair, slowly fell into a quiet state, and her face was very ugly. This was the performance of air sickness on the first flight. Like motion sickness, air sickness is also very uncomfortable. You can't say it is a disease, but this feeling is really uncomfortable. You feel dizzy and your stomach is churning. After the plane just entered the stratosphere, the little girl's face became worse and worse. Although the couple sat in the best seats, no matter where you sit in the plane, there is only a little space. It is impossible to lie flat or sideways. After unbuckling the seat belt around her waist, the little girl reacted. The experienced Belsina immediately found the vomit bag in front of the seat and handed it to the little girl. With a wow, all the curry she had eaten before boarding the plane was vomited. My goodness, this smell is really bad, sour and smelly. There is also a fermented smell, but Belsina did not dislike it. Instead, he helped the little girl hold the vomit bag while patting the little girl's back and comforting her softly. It's okay. Many people will have this reaction when they take a plane for the first time. Otherwise, there would be no vomit bags on the plane. Vomit, and you will feel better after you vomit it all out. Then drink something and rest on the chair for a while. In a few hours, we will land. The little girl saw that her husband, Belsing, not only did not despise her, but also comforted her softly, patting her back and holding a vomit bag. It is rare for a husband in India to be able to do this. What else can I complain about? Sure enough, after listening to what Brother Bell said, I felt a little better after vomiting in my stomach. I took the glass of water sent by Brother Bell and rinsed my mouth thoroughly. Then I raised my head with a red face and thick neck, lay on my back on the chair, and breathed a sigh of relief. I patted my empty stomach first and said with a smile, "My stomach still feels very uncomfortable, but I feel so hungry. Brother Bell, will I vomit while eating? I will be like an African refugee when I get off the plane." Seeing the little girl's serious and frightened look, Belsina didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He gently bent over and stroked the little girl's hair with his hand. With his other hand, he took out a blanket and covered the little girl with a smile. "Nonsense, it's just air sickness. If it weren't for your health, you can take air sickness medicine to make you feel better. Be obedient and lie here to rest. There will be lunch in 2 hours. Don't worry and eat slowly. As long as you stay relaxed, you won't vomit anymore. If you hold on for a few more hours, we will arrive in Ginza. Then we can stay in the hotel and rest for a day. I guarantee you will recover healthily." The little girl just smiled slightly, hummed softly, and put Belsina's hand on the blanket on her chest and smiled slightly. He closed his eyes and fell asleep slowly and steadily. Belsina twisted his body like this for more than 10 minutes, and finally his old waist couldn't stand it anymore. He gently pulled out his hand, slowly sat back on the chair, and covered his right waist with his teeth bared, and slowly swayed for a while, and then he felt better. Seeing that the little girl fell asleep, he slowly stood up from his seat, moved around, and then walked along the aisle to the smoking area near the bathroom. He took out a Camel cigarette and took a puff, and at the same time, sighed in his heart. He looked like a heavy smoker who died of smoking in his previous life. Why is it that since a few months, his smoking addiction has become more and more serious? When he first started smoking, he smoked a pack of cigarettes every 3 days on average. After a week, he smoked a pack every 2 days, and now he smokes a pack a day. Fortunately, it has finally stabilized. If it increases to 2 or 3 packs a day, it will be scrapped in a few years. After smoking several cigarettes in the smoking area, I finally satisfied my craving for the sight, and then went to the bathroom to take care of my own housework. After washing my hands and face, I walked out relaxed, returned to my seat, and covered the little girl with a blanket. At that time, the flight attendant came over with a drink cart, saw Belsina and asked with a smile, "Little friend, what do you want to drink? Coke or juice?" Damn, my brother looks young, although he is only 15 years old, but he can't be called a little friend. Can you see how young I am? Isn't this an insult? I'm a married man, okay, and my wife is sitting next to me. You actually ask me to call you a little friend. This is really intolerable. Belsina, the little fat man, pulled his face down, but he didn't have much majesty, but he was still cute, which made the flight attendant's eyes light up, and she wanted to pinch the little fat man's baby face with her hands. At this time, Belsina raised his eyes and said coldly, "Please give me a glass of iced whiskey and a bottle of mineral water. In addition, please watch your words. I'm already a 15-year-old adult man, not a child in your mouth. If you dare to call me that again, I will complain to you." Oh, the little guy has a bad temper. In addition, customers are God. He spent hundreds of dollars to buy the best cabin. In addition, whether in RB or India, 15 years old is considered an adult. It's not too much for an adult to ask for a glass of iced whiskey, right? Besides, RB Airlines attaches great importance to passenger complaints. If this child complains about him, regardless of whether he is right or wrong, this month's bonus will be gone. He can't lose the big picture for the sake of the small. So he just smiled and said nothing, and gave Belsina a glass of iced whiskey and a bottle of room temperature mineral water. Then he pushed the cart to serve the next passenger. And what about Belsina? He gently put the water next to the little girl's hand, and then tasted the strong taste of iced whiskey. To be honest, in the eyes of foreigners, whiskey is a kind of strong liquor, but for Belsina, who is used to drinking Magnate, this kind of whiskey can only be regarded as a low alcohol liquor, and it is a liquor with a good taste. Drinking less will have a different taste. If you drink this slightly sweet whiskey for a long time, it is not a good choice. Chapter 71, Funny Stories on the Plane Part 2. After half a glass of wine, the little girl turned over and hummed, then opened her eyes, and saw Belsina looking at her with a smile. The little girl felt very embarrassed, and her face turned red instantly. She sat up shyly and just looked up, and saw Brother Bell handing her a bottle of mineral water. She was very moved. The little girl had just vomited, and lost a lot of water. After a nap, her mouth must be dry and itchy. Without a bottle of mineral water, how could she talk? Sure enough, the little girl twisted the mineral water by herself and gulped down half a bottle. Only then did she breathe a sigh of relief and regained half of her spirit. Putting down the mineral water in her hand, the little girl shyly tugged at Belsina's sleeve. Singh turned around and asked blankly, "What's wrong? Where do you feel uncomfortable? Are you hungry? Don't worry, lunch will be delivered soon." The reason why the little girl was so shy was not because she was embarrassed in front of Belsina, but because she was embarrassed to say it to the people on the plane. Seeing her husband asking if she was feeling uncomfortable, the little girl hooked her finger, and when she saw Belsina leaning over to her ear, she whispered, "I'm not hungry, but I want to go to the bathroom. I don't dare to go alone. Brother Bell, can you accompany me?" To be honest, this Boeing 737 passenger plane is very advanced. If someone has no experience of riding this kind of plane, it is very troublesome to go to the bathroom for the first time. In addition, the little girl is timid and will be frightened if she encounters any trouble, so Belsina quickly stood up and took the initiative to help the little girl up. Then the two of them walked hand in hand and talked and laughed to the bathroom in the first class cabin. Then very naturally, the two of them walked in together and then locked the bathroom door, almost teaching the little girl how to use this very advanced bathroom. This process is very erotic, but different from what most people imagine. Belsina is very yearning for air shock, but unfortunately, the little girl is now in her menstrual period, and she can't shock, even if she wants to. 10 minutes later, the two of them finally walked out of the bathroom, but they didn't expect to see a fat Asian woman in her 40s. As soon as they opened the door, she was looking at the couple coming out of the bathroom with a shocked face, and her mouth was so wide open that she could fit 2 apples and 4 eggs, as if she had seen something weird. Her eyes were full of shock, disbelief, and even anger, but this woman was very well mannered. She was shocked to the point of being a mess, but she didn't shout or point at Singh's nose and condemn him. She was shocked for a while before she let her body go and let the couple come over hand in hand. What did the smart little girl think of at this time? When she came back, she secretly smiled in Belsina's ear and said, "Brother Bell, did you see the fat woman just now? That surprised look was really funny. Did she think you were a bad guy? It was also because I, a beautiful girl, came to the bathroom to do something that shouldn't be seen by others." Seeing the naughty look of the little girl, Belsina didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and then thought of the air shock that he had dreamed of, which was aggrieved. Seeing the little girl, hey, like a little fox, hey, 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 hey. You're still being nice. If it weren't for the menstrual period, I would have eaten you right there. This time, the air shock couldn't be completed, but next time, you must satisfy me, or I'll cheat and not leave. Let's see what you can do. Ha ha ha. The little girl loved Belsina so much that she would try her best to satisfy him, no matter what he asked. This was the first time that he said it so bluntly in front of so many people. Although most of these people were Asian, they might be Japanese and couldn't understand what the two were saying. But the little girl still felt very embarrassed. She blushed and lowered her head. She pulled Belsina's big hand and said HMM, which meant she agreed. This made Belsina feel that the happy day was coming soon. After the romantic French kiss, the two of them returned to their seats hand in hand. 20 minutes later, the bartender who had just teased Belsina came out again, but this time he didn't push out a bartender cart, but a dining cart. It was time to serve lunch. This plane is a plane of RB Airlines, and of course it serves RB cuisine, the most famous of which is eel rice and various kinds of sushi. There are so many kinds of food and the shapes are very beautiful. As a Hindu, there is nothing to worry about. In addition to beef, there is nothing that cannot be eaten with fresh seafood. In the end, Belsina chose a set of salmon sushi, and the little girl chose a set of tuna sushi. As for the miso soup, which is commonly known as the soybean paste soup, neither of them is very interested. I just ordered a glass of fresh orange juice to eat with the sushi. The taste is okay, but it is almost impossible to eat a full stomach. It is good to fill the stomach. After the meal, the two talked and laughed, half lying on the chair listening to music and chatting. Most of the chats revolved around how to shop. Women are born shopaholics, which is indeed true. Women in any country and any nationality are very practical. The little girl chattered and almost listed all her shopping lists. My goodness, the shopping list is so huge, with a dazzling array of everything, but Belsina was more and more moved as he listened. 80% of the shopping list the little girl listed was for herself. She counted with her fingers how many sets of handmade suits she planned to buy for Belsina, what kind of watches and leather shoes to buy, and even planned to change Belsina's mobile phone, but Belsina did not agree. This old Nokia mobile phone in her hand is her only thought. When this Nokia mobile phone stops working, she will change to the second one, so as to use this old mobile phone as much as possible. Talking and laughing, time passed quickly, and an hour later, at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the plane landed at Ginza Airport. When I got off the plane, I saw that my followers looked very bad. I didn't need to ask to know that these bumpkins were all dizzy. It was a blessing to be able to get off the plane alive. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 72, Ginza Shopping. Although the state of these subordinates is quite funny, they are strong and can recover quickly as long as their feet are on solid ground. Sure enough, they found themselves in the transfer area. After saluting, they walked out of the airport hall and the cold breeze blew over several people, and then they returned to normal. Since only Belsina and Lina can speak English, the task of taking a taxi naturally fell on Belsina. There were 5 taxis in total, 1 for luggage and 4 for passengers. They entered the Ginza city in a mighty manner and got off the car at a 5-star hotel. The hotel was booked 2 days ago, otherwise it would be a mess to book a hotel after getting off the plane. If it was placed in the usual place, it would be a double room. Ordinary business rooms. As for the young couple, they should live in the most high-end presidential suite for their honeymoon trip, but it is worth $800 a day, but it is worth it. The moment they walked into the room, it was as if they had walked into a traditional RV farmhouse. The decoration of the room was all in traditional Japanese style. There were wooden sliding doors and tatami mats with paper, various small wooden furniture, and a small bridge and water garden living room with top-level configuration. There was also a set of small teapots on the table in the living room. After the doorman delivered the luggage, he gave a $10 tip. After the luggage was settled, he took a hot bath to wash away all the fatigue of the journey. Then he changed into a traditional kimono of RB and walked out of the room crookedly in a pair of wooden clogs. The two of them supported each other, otherwise they would really sprain their ankles and fall to the living room. Just after sitting down and ordering a cup of traditional Japanese green tea, enjoying the sweetness brought by the tea, 2 minutes later, the servants, led by little Jamal, came to the restaurant one after another to meet their master Belsina. When everyone was here, of course they had to have dinner. It would be unreasonable not to enjoy the food of RB when they came to RB. In addition, the Japanese food has a unique shape and can be regarded as a work of art that can be used. It is so exquisite, but the portion of each food is not enough, and it is not easy for these big-bellied men to eat. Several male staff members of the restaurant almost ran their legs off. It took 40 minutes to eat their fill. Originally, Belsina wanted to take Lina out for a walk, but the fatigue of the flight made Lina give up this time and went back to the room to fall asleep on the bed. The next morning, they got up from the bed at 8 o'clock, and then the two of them took a shower and went to the restaurant to eat. After eating, they took a taxi directly to the large shopping mall and then added 2 sets of winter clothes for each person. After all, it is January, which is the cold winter in RB. Although it is relatively south in Ginza, the temperature is still a few degrees above zero. This makes Indians who live in temperatures above 25 degrees above zero all year round feel very uncomfortable. If they don't wear thicker clothes, they will catch a cold when they go out. Down jackets, sweaters, woolen trousers, cotton shoes, cotton hats and even cotton gloves are all equipped. After that, they started shopping. Ginza is the most prosperous commercial center in the entire RB. The housing prices here can almost be equal to gold. It is truly a city built up with silver. My goodness, it is so prosperous. As long as you have money, there is nothing you can't buy. In addition, Belsina made preparations in advance, and only $50,000 of the $100,000 in foreign exchange in the family was spent, and the remaining $50,000 was used as a honeymoon fund. In particular, Lina, the main force of shopping, planned to implement her shopping list one by one. The first option on the shopping list was to tailor 2 sets of pure handmade suits from Italy for Belsina, and the brand was set at Armani. The price of each set of Armani's handmade suits is around tens of thousands of dollars, but you have to admit that it is worth the money. Tailoring allows you to wear this handmade suit on your body, which is very decent and fits you well. No matter what actions you make, it will be completed smoothly. There is no sense of restraint. When you come to the Armani handmade suit brand store in Ginza, it becomes Lina's world. From tailoring to fabric selection, it is all handled by Lina, the lady. Belsina can only act as a model and let the tailor fiddle with it. It took an hour and a half, and 2 sets of pure handmade suits were finally made. 3 days later, I came to pick up the goods. A set of Armani handmade suits cost $1.20. In addition, I also customized to casual suits. Casual suits are different from formal suits. The fabrics of casual suits are basically made of camel hair from South America. In addition, there is a leather pudding-like thing on the 2 elbows to prevent wear. 4 suits cost a total of $30,000. The 2 formal suits are divided into formal and casual clothes. These suits are divided into tops, vests, shirts, ties, bow ties and buttons. Trousers, belts, leather shoes and even underwear are included. Casual suits are more complicated than this style, so we won't introduce them one by one. It's only a little girl who can spend $30,000 on 4 suits, and the little girl feels that it is very cheap. After buying 4 suits for herself, the second store she wants to visit is Dunhill Leather Store, which bought many expensive leather bags for Belsinger, including shoulder bags and wallets. There are also several very popular belts. The third shopping place is the Swiss watch area. He yelks and chose a Rolex gold watch and a Vacheron Constantin leather watch. Then, at the strong request of Belsinger, he bought a Cartier women's leather watch for Lena. Then the two bought Piaget couple watches. Wow, these watches are worth a lot of money. They almost spent all the remaining US dollars and also lost £5,000. The whole day was spent on Belsinger. It was not until 5 o'clock in the afternoon that he returned to the hotel tiredly. The next morning, he went out to shop again. This time, they bought Prada, a famous women's brand. He bought 2 dresses, 2 evening gowns, and 2 casual clothes for the little girl. Then he went to the French Lancôme cosmetics store. In fact, the little girl rarely wears makeup. Her skin is very white, tender, smooth, and plump with full moisture. But which woman doesn't love beauty and makeup? In order not to hurt the girl's baby-like smooth skin, no matter how Lena objected, Lancôme cosmetics are imperative. International brands will not hurt the skin. This can be guaranteed. At noon, we had a very sumptuous barbecue at a famous barbecue restaurant in Ginza. The barbecued meat was all lamb and pork, and beef was out of the question. Whether it was because of faith or tradition, Belsinger and his party did not choose beef. That afternoon, they visited famous sports brands, such as Nike and Adidas, and bought some loose pure cotton sportswear that fit well. At this time, the servants who were on their honeymoon with Belsinger and his wife took advantage of it. Each of them had a set of Nike sportswear and Nike sneakers. They were particularly suitable for wearing. They walked around Ginza for 3 days, and went crazy shopping for 3 days. On the 4th day, they took the Shinkansen train to RB Tokyo. Chapter 73. This is snow. So cool. We visited many classic scenic spots in RB Tokyo, and took group photos. Then we went to the most famous RB kimono custom shop in Tokyo. We customized a traditional men's kimono for Belsinger, and a pink RB kimono with cherry blossom patterns for the little girl Lena. We visited some scenic spots for 2 days, but the only one we didn't go to was a Yasukuni shrine, which was a bottom line for Belsinger. 2 days later, we flew to the most famous tourist attraction in RB, Hokkaido, a hot spring attraction. The purpose of coming to Hokkaido was to see the snow and enjoy the hot springs. The little girl Lena has been in India since she was born and grew up. The farthest place she has been to is Delhi, India. As for the servants, Belsinger could not leave the town of Sinjar because they did not follow their master. India has only 2 seasons, the dry season and the rainy season. The temperature is kept above 25 degrees all year round. If there is no refrigerator, let alone snow, you have never seen ice. It is now mid-January, the season with the most snowfall in Hokkaido in the year. The little girl is lucky enough. As soon as she got off the plane, snowflakes floated down from the sky, falling on her skin, and feeling icy and cool. The little girl was so excited when she saw the snowflakes flying all over the sky for the first time. The heavy down jacket she was wearing made her look uncoordinated. But the little girl took off her thick down jacket in excitement and danced happily in the waiting area of the airport in a sweater and pants. In the past, Belsinger would definitely stop the little girl's mischief because she had never felt a cold climate and she would definitely catch a cold if it snowed. But Belsinger just smiled at the little girl, dancing in the snow, feeling like a fairyland. The little girl broke into his heart like a beautiful fairy. Beautiful, magnificent. Belsinger quickly took out the camera to shoot this segment, and the couple treasured the happy moment for a lifetime. It was in the waiting area of the airport in Hokkaido. With the snowflakes flying all over the sky, the little girl danced and everything became so harmonious. Everything became so beautiful and natural. This picture is rare and pure and natural. It is so precious. In his previous life, Belsinger was actually a buyer for a machinery factory in Guangzhou, but he has traveled all over the world. Especially Harbin in Northeast Province is a famous mechanical processing city in the country, with 3 major driving forces. That is no joke. When I came to Harbin to purchase, it snowed and I played in the snow. After all, it is normal for southerners to feel excited when they see snow for the first time. So Belsina knows that the temperature will be very warm when it snows in the sky. Only when the snow stops will the temperature drop significantly and feel cold. So it is relatively comfortable in snowy weather. He has not stopped the little girl's mischief, and not only did he not stop her, he actually filmed a 20-minute video of Lina dancing in the snow. After the little girl finished a set of peacock dance, she hugged Belsina breathlessly, jumped excitedly, and shouted loudly, "Brother Bell, it's snowing. I didn't expect it to snow. It's so icy and beautiful. We made the right decision to come to Hokkaido this time. Brother Bell, our trip is worthwhile. Ha ha ha." Seeing the sweaty little girl, Belsina quickly handed the camera to Jamal next to him, and then put on a down jacket for the little girl. He took care of the wet hair on the little girl's head, pinched her nose, and said with a smile, "You're so excited that you're sweating, and you don't know how to put on clothes. When will you grow up? Let's go. The temperature will drop significantly after the snow. Don't catch a cold. Let's go back to the hot spring hotel and enjoy the feeling brought by the hot spring and snow scenery. Ice and fire hot springs and white snow are the manifestations of a fairyland on earth. Let's go. I can't wait. Ha ha ha." After that, he took 5 taxis and came to a famous hot spring hotel in the suburbs of Hokkaido. When he got off the taxi, he saw the hot spring hotel, which was almost buried in the snow. Snow of various shapes connected the buildings, and there was steaming smoke floating up from the backyard of the hot spring hotel. Coupled with the thick fog of the sunset snow scene hot spring, it outlined a beautiful picture like a fairyland on earth, which made people intoxicated. At this time, the snow stopped, and the temperature dropped significantly. When talking and breathing, you can see white breath coming out of your mouth. At this time, the little girl's nose was red from the cold. When getting off the taxi, Belsina took the lead in holding the little girl's hand and laughed. Stepping on the thick snow, he ran to the door of the hot spring hotel with a creaking sound. At this time, Belsina grabbed the little girl without warning, and the impact almost made the two people fall down. In the little girl's confused eyes, Belsina came to the door and then kicked the wooden door open with a kick. At this time, the snow blocks on the gate tower came down with a bang, and the scene was so shocking. The little girl saw that the snow blocks that were shaken down covered the ground. At this time, she was surprised that she could stuff a kiwi into her mouth, and said in shock, "Oh my god, it turns out that snow can be shaken down. Isn't that how avalanches come about, Brother Bell?" Although it's not quite accurate, it's almost the same. In order to show his erudition, Bell shamelessly nodded and admitted, "Yes, that's how avalanches come about. Hokkaido is a skiing paradise. After a good rest, Brother Bell will take Lina to ski, so that Lina can feel the joy of skiing. Don't cry out in pain when you fall, haha." At this time, the servants behind him with large and small bags followed, and then a group of people came to the reception hall of the hot spring hotel. When I opened the door and walked into the house, I felt a wave of heat coming towards me. The house was as warm as spring. Although it was more than 5 o'clock in the afternoon, there were not many people. There were only a few people at the counter of the house registration office. There were also 2 people sitting in the hall sorting out their clothes, as if they were going out. They were a young couple with blonde hair and blue eyes, and they seemed to have come here to spend their honeymoon. When I came to the registration office, I communicated with the service staff in English. Bell's room was the best suite, facing the greenhouse garden. Because of the open-air hot spring, the garden is always shrouded in fog, but due to the effect of the hot spring's hot steam, the outside of the garden is still icy and snowy, and the green plants in the garden are lush and green. Some flowers are blooming first, forming a sharp contrast with the ice and snow outside. This is a scene that can only be seen in the hot spring area. It is really rare and worth the price. Of course, the servants live in ordinary double rooms, and there are many rooms on the upper and lower floors of the hot spring hotel. There are more than 100 hot spring pools of various sizes, which can accommodate 300 people at the same time. The service quality is also very good, and the rooms are very clean. After packing up the gift, I changed into the hotel's characteristic kimono and went to the restaurant to eat. After all, it is not a very good habit to take a hot spring bath on an empty stomach. Chapter 74, Ice and Fire. So cool. When you come to the most famous Hokkaido hot spring hotel, you must enjoy the famous hot spring food. Almost all food machines are made with hot spring water. It contains very high minerals and is very good for the human body. The most distinctive one is the hot spring egg, which is a domestic egg cooked in an 80-degree hot spring. It looks very complete, but when you peel it open, it is only 6/10 cooked. Both the egg white and the egg yolk taste very delicious. Put it in your mouth and suck it into your throat. The egg has no fishy smell. It is very warm and nourishing to the stomach. Another distinctive one is buckwheat noodles. The buckwheat noodles made with hot spring water taste particularly chewy. Because of the characteristics of buckwheat, corn flour and wheat flour are added to the noodles, which can be regarded as a mixture of 3 kinds of flour. It is paired with stewed pork ribs, which are fragrant and very filling. In particular RB steak tastes sweet, but the after effect is relatively strong. But this is for Belsinger, a drunkard. These steaks can only be drunk as beverages. After eating and drinking, everyone wore special kimonos and walked to the hot spring area behind the hot spring hotel in wooden clogs. Only then will you see that there are a lot of people in the hot spring area. Almost every pool is occupied by people. There are also various green flowers and plants in it. It is very lively. There are also some children running around in swimming trunks. Of course, everyone who orders a room has an exclusive hot spring pool. After knowing their number and coming to their own hot spring pool, there is really no one. Take off your kimono by the hot spring pool, wear swimming trunks, and come to the hot spring little by little. The water temperature has reached 50 degrees, which is a little hot. It is the first time that hot springs need such high temperatures. Otherwise, it is easy to catch a cold in an open air hot spring or a low temperature pool. It has not been 2 minutes since I entered the hot spring. 2 female staff members carried something like a boat to the exclusive pool of Belsinger and put down the boat. After opening the cabin, all kinds of delicious food came into view. The RB people are really serious about doing things. They can hide these delicacies in the cabin of the boat. When the boat floats on the hot spring pool, enjoying the food and wine in the cabin, coupled with the green and snowy scenery around, makes people feel physically and mentally happy. This is a rare enjoyment, and it is only available in the cold zone. However, it cannot be said that India does not have hot springs, but it is difficult to see the scenery of hot springs and snow. The cabin of this boat is full of fruits, high-end sushi sake, and small bottles of whiskey customized for the hotel. Those who soak in the hot spring hum comfortably, but in front of the food, Belsinger and Lina ignore their image and eat fruits while taking a bath. At this time, Belsinger discovered a secret in the cabin. There was a manual next to the fruit. When he picked it up, he saw that it was an English introduction to the hot spring hotel. The more he looked at it, the more fun and interesting it felt. On the 4th page, he saw that the hot spring hotel actually had a relatively high price. However, it is a very rare hot spring fish recuperation project. These hot spring fish are not big, only less than 10 centimeters long, and they are also special fish species in Hokkaido. These hot spring baths only live in hot spring water at about 40 degrees. Due to the special structure of the fish mouth, some algae on the stone can be used, but people's creativity is unlimited. They use the habit of hot spring fish to eat algae. Put these hot spring fish in a 40-degree hot spring pool, and then people enter the hot spring pool to take a bath, and these small fish will surround their human body. Their special mouths scrape the dead skin, or exfoliated cells on the human skin, to achieve the actual effect of recuperation. The brochure also introduces some special effects of hot spring fish recuperation, especially for patients with skin diseases. Of course, Belsinger and Lina do not have skin diseases, but hot spring fish recuperation looks like a very good leisure project and is worth a try. Belsinger saw this hot spring fish recuperation project and was moved. He put down the sake cup in his hand, came to Lina who was resting with her eyes closed, and patted her little butt. After attracting Lina's attention, he raised the brochure in his hand and said with a smile, "My dear, take a look at the hot spring fish therapy introduced here. It's a rare healthcare method. How about we give it a try? Let the little fish swim around us and peck off the dead skin on our bodies. It can also have massage effect and relieve fatigue." Lina said in surprise when she saw this. Oh my god, I didn't expect that there are fish that can survive in such a high temperature of hot springs. Hot spring fish therapy sounds good, so what are we waiting for? Let's go. I also want to feel the little fish pecking at my skin. What kind of feeling is that? It must be fun. Belsina said with a smile as he pulled Lina out of the pool. I don't think it's fun, but I'm curious about the taste of those hot spring fish, and I don't know if they are delicious. At this time, Lina helped Belsina put on his kimono while grinning and said, Brother Bell, how could you have such an idea? Didn't you see that the hot spring fish pecked at the dead skin or infected parts of the human body? How dirty and disgusting. You actually want to eat them, which is equivalent to eating the dead skin and various viruses shed by humans. You really thought of it. I warn you that if you eat these fish, I will not allow you to kiss me. Seeing the little girl looking at him with a vigilant look, Belsina didn't know whether to cry or laugh. I was just making an analogy and imagining in my heart, thinking that I would really eat those hot spring fish, but I was just curious about how fish could live in such a high hot spring temperature. The world is really full of wonders. When I came to the service area, I asked the waitress if there were any vacancies in the hot spring fish sanatorium. The service staff was very enthusiastic and checked. You really don't say it, although there are many people today. However, the price of the hot spring fish sanatorium is high, and the ticket price for each person is more than $300. This is a serious high consumption luxury sanatorium that not everyone can afford, so the sanatorium is only half full. It would be easy if there were seats. The two of them came out for a honeymoon trip, so of course they had to have a good time. As for the $300, they didn't even think about it. As the service staff walked through the smoky hot spring area, they came to the innermost part of the hot spring area and saw an area separated by bamboo. The flowers and plants placed here, as well as the decoration, were very high-end. There were only a dozen people, and 2 people were soaking in the hot spring pool together. The red hot spring fish were more than 10 centimeters long, and they swam around them and pecked at their dead skin. There were about 200 fish in a pool, big and small. The 2 were taken to a secluded place. The pool was not big, only 4 or 5 square meters, but there were many small red fish in it. Chapter 75. Singapore is eating. There are a lot of small fish in this pool. They are very lively and swim around in the hot spring, looking very hungry. If these small fish are not hungry, how can they eat dead skin? Feeding these fish will have a therapeutic effect. When they came to their own bath, they wanted to take off their clothes and go down to enjoy the treatment of hot spring fish. But at this time, the service staff stopped the 2 people. After explaining, they found out that the 2 people had been soaking in other hot spring pools for a while. Now you should take a shower to tighten your skin, so that the heat expansion and contraction will cause your dead skin to fall off your body. In this way, the effect of hot spring fish nail treatment will be better. So what else can I say? Take a shower, and then jump into the pool with a plop. Just lying in the pool, these small fish are like piranhas that smell blood. They swarmed in and almost wrapped the bodies of the 2 people. The mouths of these hot spring fish are of a special structure. It feels itchy when biting on the human body, as if someone is holding a small bath towel and gently scrubbing your body. Hundreds of fish surround you. You bite me, I bite you, and you both fall into the pool with itchy and laugh. If you hadn't held hands to restrain each other, you would have jumped out of the fish pond long ago. It was so itchy and fun. Moreover, these hot spring fish will eat the dead skin of humans according to their own parts. Just like everyone likes to eat sweet and spicy food, these hot spring fish like to eat different parts of the dead skin of humans. I didn't expect that the taste of fish is so tricky, and the parts they like are also different. Some peck at the calves, some peck at the feet, some peck at the knees, and there are several fish with special tastes that like to peck at the dead skin on the buttocks of humans. It's really a 360-degree full-scale service. From the beginning, there was some itchiness and some discomfort, but after 10 minutes, when people relaxed, they felt a special enjoyment. This is a human floating in the hot spring enjoying a 360-degree full-scale service. It feels comfortable, a little bit like a fairyland 300 yuan. It's worth it. After 40 minutes, it is possible that the dead skin on the two people's bodies was eaten clean by these hot spring fish, or it is possible that these hot spring fish were full and began to leave the two people's bodies one by one. After about half an hour, all the hot spring fish had left the bodies of the two people. There was no good therapeutic effect if they continued to soak, and the water temperature of 40 degrees was really not high. Under the situation of leaking sky, people felt a little chilly. At this time, the two people walked out of the hot spring pool hand in hand. Then they came to the shower area, put on soap, and washed their bodies well. Then they put on kimonos, and came to the hot spring area, to call a group of people. They came to the restaurant, to have a midnight snack. The first dish they ordered was very rich, RB special spicy hot pot, especially those dazzling edible fungi. It tasted very fresh in the hot pot, and it also had an unknown nourishing effect. After returning to the room, looking at Lina's graceful body, Belsinger immediately turned into a werewolf. He threw the little girl hard on the bed, then laughed and pounced on her. After a night of romance, he got up from the bed at more than 10 o'clock the next morning. After a late breakfast at the restaurant, we took the shuttle bus, provided by the Hot Spring Hotel, to a ski resort 20 kilometers away. We changed into ski clothes, got our own skis, and ran up the mountain along the cable car, the beginner ski area, and at an additional cost, hired an English-speaking ski coach to teach the two people skiing skills. After more than 2 hours of falling countless times, the two people still enjoyed it and began to master the skiing skills little by little. They could ski hundreds of meters without falling. This achievement made the two people very happy. Only Jamelin Brooke, the human mule, accompanied the two people to ski. The rest of the servants could only wait for the two people in the rest area. They played until more than 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Their stomachs were empty, and they fell. They fell and their waists and legs were sore. With the help of Jamelin Brooke, they limped and got on the cable car, and returned to the service area of the ski area. After changing clothes, they took the shuttle bus back to the Hot Spring Hotel, reluctantly ate some special food, and then went to the hot spring area, to soak in the hot springs, to relieve their sore arms. They skied, soaked in hot springs, and enjoyed delicious food. After a week, although they were reluctant to leave, the couple still took a plane to Singapore. When they got off the plane, they felt a heat wave coming. It was completely different from RB. The average temperature in Singapore is higher than that in India. After all, Singapore is closer to the equator. Although the weather is hot, Singapore is a paradise for shopping and food. No matter where you go, you can see some dark-skinned Indian people. When these people see the couple holding hands, and followed by a large number of servants, they know that the two are not simple. Everyone who looks at the couple nodded and saluted. After enjoying a special curry fish head in the hotel, they started to go shopping in the commercial street again. This time is different from RB. Even if they go shopping in the commercial street, they will not spend a lot of money to buy those clothes, but go to buy those small commodities. Especially some girls like special small accessories, which have become the main part of the two people's shopping. Go shopping, and when you are tired, you can eat at the nearby food stalls. Don't look at these food stalls. Simple. In fact, each of them has been in business for a long time. The longest one is hundreds of years old, and the unique food produced is unique and can't be eaten anywhere else. Especially the big blue crabs that are very large and weigh several kilograms. Stir-fried with black pepper, the aroma is rich. Especially looking at those big crab claws that are as big as the palm of your hand. It feels so good. Yes, it's so good, and chewing with your hands is the most delicious way to use it. Singapore is not a small country, and you can visit the whole Singapore in about 3 days, of course, except for the countryside of Singapore. I barely stayed for a week, then took a plane to Malaysia, and then lived in the best seaside resort in Malaysia. This is the real paradise on earth. Blue sky and white clouds, clear sea, enjoying the breeze and fresh coconut juice by the sea, and then a sunbath can relieve all fatigue. If it's hot, the two of them will go to the sea hand in hand in their swimsuits to swim around. Sometimes Belsinger needs to act as a qualified husband and teach his wife Lina to learn to swim. Lina grew up in Shah village, which didn't have the holy lake behind Raga village, so Lina and her family couldn't swim. At this time, Belsina, who knew how to swim, stepped forward and taught his wife how to swim. Of course, this time, Lina didn't stop Belsina physically or mentally from doing some tricks. One night, in the dead of night, Belsina enjoyed the pleasure of sea shock, which made Belsina proud for several days. This is the joy of life between the two young couples, so there is no need to introduce it to everyone. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.